hearing last month. Venables was sent back to prison in 2010 after admitting downloading and distributing indecent images of children. Our Home Affairs correspondent June Kelly reports.
John Venables is one of this country's most infamous killers. He and his co-defendant Robert Thompson were both 10 years old when they tortured and murdered 2-year-old James Bulger in Bootle on Merseyside. In 2001, they were released on licence and given new identities as part of the move to rehabilitate them. In 2010, Venables, by then in his 20s, was returned to custody after he was caught in possession of child abuse images.
The Church of England's governing body meets in York today under intensifying pressure to resolve the impasse over women bishops. Senior bishops have put forward new proposals that would allow women to become bishops with a simple majority vote. Traditionalist Anglicans have objected to this. A respite care home for children with special needs in Stevenage is set for closure. Hertfordshire County Council had given Wilbury House a 6-month reprieve. Lorna Hankin has more.
A consultation by the council asked parents whether they used overnight provision at the home, and over 50% responded no, so the council decided to close it. But those parents who do use it will now have to travel to Welwyn and Hertford for alternative care. They say they feel let down by the decision and want to know what the site will now be used for.
More on this coming up next with Iain Lee. The 900,000th van has rolled off the line at Luton's Vauxhall plant. It will be handed over to the AA later this morning to become part of their fleet. Sport, and Andy Murray will face Jerzy Janowicz later today in his attempt to make it his second Wimbledon men's final in 2 years. The other semi-final, which takes place on centre court beforehand, is between Novak Djokovic, who sounds just like that, and Juan Martín del Potro. The weather, dry with warm, sunny spells and a top temperature of 25 degrees Celsius. There's 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Get the latest news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3counties.
That, the fella that Murray's... Now, listen, you know I like my tennis, and I've been watching the form of some of the players in this Wimbledon tennis fortnight, and that fella that Andy Murray is playing is going to almost literally eat him alive. He's 6'8", Kath!
Yeah, but it's about the power in your arm, isn't it?
Yeah, he's got... Look at him on the front page of the Mail. He's able to rip his own T-shirt off with his bare hands.
Oh.
He's going to destroy... He's going to rip Murray's head off and get his balls, tennis balls, and throw them all over the court and then eat his body.
Oh. Come on, Andy.
Quiet, please. You heard it here first. If he loses the first 2 frames to that Spanish fella who's not very good, I'm really at the edge of my tennis knowledge right now, then this Jerzy giant is going to destroy him. He's massive. Look at the size of him. He's huge. I'm sorry, Andy. I'm sorry. It was a nice run, but this afternoon by about 6 o'clock, you're going to be Scottish again. This is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. I sound perky. I'm doing what I believe is described as faking it to make it. Because I sound perky. I'm not perky. I'm hoping that if I keep sounding perky, I'll trick my body into believing that, yes, I am actually perky. I'm not. Busy show this morning. We've got Hanson. We've got Nanny Eileen. We've got loads of stuff. Hanson are coming on. I know. Here are some other things we're talking about. Maybe you'd want to have a little say on some of these. Our local MPs will be in Parliament today talking about the EU referendum bill. Well, there are persuasive arguments on both sides as to whether we should be in or not. But what do you think? Can Beds, Hearts and Bucks survive without Europe? A new charity is launched today as figures reveal a third of children where we are have thought about or attempted suicide before they reach the age of 16 because of bullying. Well, were you bullied at school? Does bullying live with you forever? And this is, I kind of think this is not a bad idea. Tory MP Peter Bone wants the last bank holiday of the year to be renamed Margaret Thatcher Day. Should we have a Margaret Thatcher Day? I think it's quite a nice idea. Whatever you think about her politics, she probably deserves it, doesn't she? Well, if you don't fancy her getting the recognition, then who should have it? Facebook.com/BBC3CR. You can send me a text, 81333. Start your text 3CR. Or, this is the best way, come on. Give me a phone call. 0845. Remember phones? Our landline rang yesterday for the first time in, I don't know, since whenever. My boy was terrified. What's that noise, Dada? What's that noise? It's the phone. It doesn't sound like a phone. He thought it was hilarious when I tried to tell him that we didn't used to have phones that we carried around in our pockets and that they used to be attached to the house. 08459 455 555.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Genuinely, he could not understand the concept of a phone attached to a house. Poor boy. Boom, boom.
Nothing you could take can tear me away from my guy. Nothing you could do, 'cause I'm stuck like glue to my guy. I'm sticking to my guy like a snap to a letter, like birds of a feather. We stick together. I'm telling you from the start, I can't be torn apart from my guy. Nothing you could do could make me untrue to my God. My God. Nothing you could buy could make me tell a lie to my God. I gave my guy my word of honor to be faithful, and I'm gonna, you best be believing I won't be deceiving my God. As a matter of opinion, I think he's tops. My opinion is he's the cream of the crop. As a matter of taste, to be exact, he's my ideal. As a matter of fact, no muscle bound man could take my hand from my guy. My God. No handsome face could ever take the place of my God. He may not be a movie star, but when it comes to being happy, we are. There's not a man today who could take me away from my God. No muscle-bound man could take my hand from my God. My God. No handsome face could ever take the place of my God. He may not be a movie star, but when it comes to being happy, we are. There's not a man today who could take me away from my God. What you say? There's not a man today who could take me away from my God.
Morning, Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. Now, MPs are discussing the UK's relationship with the European Union later. Some politicians say that we should pull out of the EU. Others say that would leave areas like ours without investment and put jobs on the line. What do you think? Can beds, hearts and bucks survive without the EU? 08459 455 555. Joined now by our political reporter, Paul Scoins. Paul, what's actually happening today?
Well, Ian, what's happening today, and I should be clear at this, at the end of today, we won't have left Europe. It's not going to be as simple as that.
Take the bunting down! Take the bunting down! OK.
MPs effectively are going to be discussing this topic, and it's called, the topic they're discussing is, do you think the UK should be a member of the European Union? Now, that will be a long discussion. We expect it to go on for some hours. It does ultimately pave the way for a referendum, which David Cameron has promised. It doesn't mean necessarily that the UK government has to implement whatever that referendum comes back with. And as I said, the Prime Minister's backing it. Labour and the Lib Dems say it's a gimmick, and both parties won't be voting, although there will be some Labour MPs who will be voting for it because they believe in the motion, including, actually, I think, Luton's Kelvin Hopkins as well, because he's quite Eurosceptic.
What are the arguments for pulling out of the EU?
Well, we hear a lot about cost, don't we?
£53 million a day, according to UKIP.
That's right, absolutely. It's quite a difficult job to put a single number on it, though. I've had a little look into it. I can't come up with a pretty reliable figure that I'm happy to say. I mean, there are some benefits that have been done about what the sort of gains and losses are to the UK economy. Some people saying it's down as little as minus 5% of our sort of UK value, if you like, and those in favour say it's as much as plus 6%. That's not really very meaningful, though, is it? There are arguments about how the UK has less control over things like immigration, certainly within the EU's borders. There's obviously our laws are sort of governed by the European Court of Justice now, and there are some arguments, including one from the Mayor of London, Boris Johnson, which say that pulling out of the EU would actually stop this country having, quote, something to blame for our low productivity culture, and he said that it would actually focus businesses and politicians to get on and become the very best in the world if we were on our own.
Why does there are arguments on both sides, of course, and why do some people say we should stay in Europe?
Well, I mean, there is an argument that it would cost a fortune to leave, all the restructuring that we would have to do, all the sort of extra sort of law-making that would have to be made, because a lot of our laws are governed by Europe, and to that extent we would probably need to rewrite a lot of them. I mean, there are lots of industries that get lots of money from Europe. Farming is one of them. There are lots of areas of the UK that get a lot of money as well. We get a lot in the east. Wales gets the highest regional funding of anywhere in the European Union, and there's cross-border working agreements. That's pretty good if you want to go and work on the continent. There's a lot of trade. There's an argument that it creates a lot of trade, and if you don't, if you're not part of the party, if you like, you're at a disadvantage. And the USA warned the UK to think long and hard about leaving the EU, so there's a potential impact on our global standing, and at an individual level, if you like. There are sort of consumer issues that are run by Europe, so things like roaming charges and cheap flights, various sort of bits and bobs like that. Roaming charges are going to be cheaper if we're staying. I'd imagine, Paul, it would be very difficult, wouldn't it, to pull out of the European Union? Yeah, it's not going to be very easy at all. It's not impossible. There are sort of long and very detailed sort of agreements as to how a country can pull out. And Greenland actually pulled out some years ago, although that was a slightly different matter. It's part of a different country. So, it is not impossible. We'd probably keep a lot of the law that we've got already, actually, because it probably ties in with our thinking as it is. There is an option, and this has been talked about, to join a sort of an area, a free trade area, if you like Norway, Iceland, Switzerland. They're all part of that as well. And then we'd make our own agreements with other EU countries over trade and various bits and bobs like that. So it's not impossible, but certainly it's something that a lot of politicians are thinking it would be quite difficult to go ahead and do.
We always talk with big figures and big abstract terms, and it's hard to see sometimes how something like being in or out of the EU could affect us. What would it mean for people in beds, hearts and bucks?
Well, simply, there's a lot of money that comes from Europe. I mentioned Wales being the area which received the biggest grant from the EU in the whole of the European Union. The funding for the East is pretty big. The current agreement between 2007 and 2013, so the last 5 years or so, 275 million euros have been sort of put this area's way, and 23.7 million for the southeast area, which includes Buckinghamshire. So a huge amount. If you see the discrepancy between those two areas, and of course that goes on sort of business development, infrastructure, training, and farming as well. It's such a rural area in the east of England. Really makes a huge difference to the economy. So it would have quite a sizable impact in terms of those. Figures, investment in sort of the public roads as well, that comes from Europe. Some of those big long routes that come from the ports, those roads that are being sort of fixed up and widened in a lot of cases, some of that has EU funding as well. So it's worth just thinking about that.
Paul Scoynes, thank you very much. We'll talk again a little bit later on. 08459 455 555. What do you think? Can beds, hearts and bucks survive without Europe? Really keen to hear both sides of the argument here, if at all possible. 08459 455 555. You can go to facebook.com/BBC3CR. Some of you posting on there already.
Travel news for beds, cards and bucks.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. So far, all looking rather good on the roads. We've had no accidents reported and everything's moving well according to the speed sensors. The shortest of delays possibly on the A5 as you come northbound from Dunstable up toward the A505 to go across toward Leighton Buzzard, but really it's all looking absolutely fine. Everything into and out of Bedford looking clear as well. Even the M25 through the roadworks section is running nicely. I can see that on the cameras. Train departure boards are not showing any late runners. I don't think anything's running more than maybe a minute late anywhere across the three counties at the minute, and all looking good for the tubes into and out of London as well. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much, Adam. More from him in 15 minutes. It's 6:16. It's Friday, the 5th of July. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. Plans for a referendum on Britain's membership of the European Union will be debated by MPs later this morning. A respite care home for children with special needs in Stevenage is set for closure. And in sport, Andy Murray takes on the massive Jerzy Janowicz for a place in Wimbledon's men's singles final later on today. And I can tell you now, Murray will be out. By 6 o'clock this evening, Andy Murray will be Scottish. The weather today in Beds, Herts and Bucks. It'll be dry with plenty of warm sunshine, maximum temperature of 25 degrees. Coming up, should we rename the late August bank holiday as Margaret Thatcher Day? I think it's a cracking idea. If you don't think it should be her, then who should we dedicate a bank holiday to? 81333. Start your text 3CR.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Who can forget this time last year?
I'm looking down on Gail Ems running through central Milton Keynes.
The Olympic torch relay lit up Beds, Herts and Bucks.
When you had that flame, it was you. In the whole of the world, you had the Olympic torch in your hand.
From Monday, the Three Counties sports team will be cycling the torch route and speaking to people involved in the sporting legacy.
What we need to do is work very, very closely with the local clubs and schools to start to develop the sport at grassroots.
Follow us throughout the day and find out just how the Olympics inspired sport for all of us.
As soon as it started, we signed up and done it on the first day.
Three Counties Sport, cycle the Olympic torch route. Monday and Tuesday here on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Give me time to realize my crimes. Let me love and steal. I have danced inside your eyes. How can I be real? Do you really want to hurt me? Do you really want to make me cry? Precious kisses, words that burn me. Lovers never ask you why. In my heart the fire's burning. Choose my color, find a star. Precious people always tell me that's a step too far. Do you really want to hurt me? Do you really want to make me cry? Do you really want to hurt me? Do you really want to make me cry? Words of you I have spoken. I could waste 1,000 years. Wrapped in sorrow, words are token. Come inside and catch my tears. You've been talking about, believe me. If it's true, you do not know. This by love's without a reason. I'm prepared to let you go. If it's love you want from me, then take it hurt me? Do you really want to make me cry? Do you really want to hurt me? Do you really want to make me cry? Do you really want to hurt me? Do you really want to make me cry?
Here's an idea. When I first heard this, I scoffed. I thought, what a stupid idea. Think about it. The more I think about it, the more it sounds like a genuinely good idea. Name a bank holiday after Margaret Thatcher. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't it be good? It will be good because bank holidays are always good. We won't be getting a new bank holiday, OK? It's going to be an existing bank holiday. It'll be a nice... Whatever you think about her, she was a very important woman in British history. And it will be quite divisive. Bank holidays are a little bit bland, aren't they? They show rubbish on the TV. You kind of sit around and no one knows quite what to do. But if it was called Margaret Thatcher Day, there'd be a little bit of tension in the air. We might even get a few protests. Well, a Conservative MP thinks we should do this. He's hoping to get the issue debated in the Commons today. His name is Peter Bone. I know, isn't that unfortunate? He's put forward a bill to turn the bank holiday at the end of August into Margaret Thatcher Day. Happy Margaret Thatcher Day! It rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Saying that she should be honoured for transforming the country.
She not only made us, you took us from the sick man of Europe to the greatest nation in Europe. She defended the Falkland Islands. Council houses became available to purchase. We privatised, nationalised industries. All the things that have transformed the country. I mean, people who might have opposed her at the time now, of course, realise that she was the greatest peacetime Prime Minister, I'm sure.
But a former Conservative MP and a friend of Margaret Thatcher, Michael Brown, well, he thinks the Iron Lady would have been appalled by the idea.
Margaret Thatcher hated holidays of any kind. She hated going on holiday and she looked for any excuse to come back to deal with a national crisis if she could find one. And the idea of a bank holiday in honour of Margaret Thatcher she would find thoroughly dreadful. And she would say, get on with your work and let's stop all this nonsense about holidays. We've got work to do.
Well, maybe we could work on the bank... If it was Margaret Thatcher bank holiday, maybe we could work on that day. What do you think? Should we name a bank holiday after Margaret Thatcher? I'd like to hear a good argument against. I bet you haven't got one. 08459 455 555. And if we don't give it to Margaret Thatcher, who should we give it to? Marie's in Offaly. Marie, would you like to be celebrating Happy Margaret Thatcher Day?
Not really, because I think Sir Winston Churchill deserves some backup.
He was an alcoholic, wasn't he?
He saved us from Hitler.
Yeah, but he was an alcoholic. I just wonder how appropriate it is to have a bank holiday celebrating, someone who couldn't put the booze down.
Yes, but listen.
Yes?
He saved us from Hitler.
Margaret Thatcher...
Think about it.
Margaret Thatcher saved us from ourselves.
Mm. Well, a lot of people weren't very keen on her, were they?
No, a lot of people weren't very keen on Churchill. Mainly the Germans, but still, he had his detractors, didn't he? Why would you like to celebrate a Winston Churchill Day, Marie?
Well, he saved us from Hitler.
As you said. Anything else?
Think what he did.
Yep. Anything else?
No.
Excellent stuff. That's Marie in Offaly. Well, what do you think, dear listener? Margaret Thatcher Day. I don't think we're going to get a good argument against it. Happy Margaret Thatcher Day. I'd even buy cards. I'd send cards to people. I'd send cards to people at the Socialist Worker. That'd learn them, wouldn't it, eh? 08459 455 555. Peter's in Walmer Green. Peter, I know you've not called in about this. We'll get to your point in a second, but would you celebrate a Margaret Thatcher Day?
Only if you had a Jimmy Savile Day the following day.
OK, I don't think that's going to happen. Don't think that's going to happen, but you never know. Political correctness gone mad. Peter, what have you called in about?
I've
Europe.
called in about this referendum.
Yes.
It's been kicked in to longer grass. And if you go by their political structure, really, and put it politely...
Yes, and please do put it politely.
Really putting it politely.
Very politely.
They are really saying that they're being economical with the truth, because it's going to be 10 years up to the... Pushed back another 2 years, 2017.
Yep.
It's going to be a private member's bill, which has got very little chance of passing it in any case.
Yes.
So it's just sheer window dressing.
Hang on a minute, Peter.
Yeah.
Are you accusing David Cameron, our Prime Minister, a man who I once offered a sausage roll to, that's true, that bit, are you saying that he's a liar?
Absolutely. He promised one before.
But he's he's double promised this one. It's a double promise.
I tell you what,
Yes.
I've heard of Flashman before, and it sounds very similar.
You've heard of what?
Heard of Flashman.
What's the Flashman?
It was if you like, it was the public school boy who was the bully at a particular school.
I know, I'm aware of the term, yes, the Flashman, yes, of course. So you're not, but if we did have an EU referendum, Peter,
Yep.
which way would you vote?
Well, I voted the same way as I did in the first one.
Yep.
And that's against.
You'd be against it. But do you think we could survive in Beds, Hearts and Bucks? Would Walmer Green be able to survive without being part of Europe?
Do you think do you think the public are better off now than they were before?
Well, don't answer a question with a question, Peter. Answer a question with an answer.
But that's what people don't do.
Yes.
They don't answer it with a question.
No. I'll try it again. Would Walmer Green be better off if we were out of Europe?
I think so.
Why?
Well, because generally we are, if you like, everything that seems to happen seems to happen through Europe. Their rules are overbearing on this country.
Those are rules.
France is never like Britain anyway. We are going to finish up. If we go on like we're going to finish up as a dumping ground for all the surplus atomic waste that France has got.
What?
And we're an offshore island, that's all.
Well, we are an offshore island.
Absolutely.
Hence, you could lose the word offshore and just say island.
It's going to be a dumping ground for the atomic waste as well, you believe me.
Peter in Walmer Green, I don't, but I appreciate your time. Thank you. 08459 455 555. Peter is adamant that Walmer Green could survive without being part of Europe. Well, what do you think? Could Beds, Hearts and Bucks survive without being part of Europe? 08459 455 555. And Margaret Thatcher Day, the last bank holiday in August, wouldn't it be nice to award it to Margaret Thatcher? If not her, who would you like to name it after? 81333, start your text 3CR.
Travel news for Beds, Cards and Bucks.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
At the moment, there's still no disruption on the roads of the three counties. Everything's moving quite well on the M25, M1 and M40. We have got some works in Amersham, the A404 White Lion Road. Temporary lights are up for gas main work near the junction with Loudhams Road. They're hoping to have those works finished later today, so by the weekend it should all be clear. In Aylesbury, temporary lights along the A41. It's water main work. They've been doing this for a few weeks now near to Berrylands, and they're going to be doing it for another couple of weeks still. If you're going to be driving through Hitchin, Cambridge Road, the A505, roadworks are taking place near the junction with Cambridge Road, so at the end of the A505 through Hitchin there. And again, they're hoping to have those works finished later today. On the trains and on the tubes, we have no delays reported for the moment. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Sweet. 6:30, News and Sport, here's Catherine Boyle.
Across Beds, Hearts and Bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. The headlines. Plans for a referendum on Britain's membership of the European Union will be debated by MPs later this morning. Scotland Yard is now formally investigating the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, who went missing in Portugal 6 years ago. And Wilbury House, a respite care for children with special needs in Stevenage, is set for closure.
Three Counties Sports.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Andy Murray takes on Jerzy Janowicz for a place in the Wimbledon men's singles final today. Murray starts as the favourite, but the British number one says he can't afford to take the 24th seed lightly.
I know him a little bit. I've seen him play quite a bit this year as well. He's had some good tournaments. In the build-up here, he played well in Rome especially. And then, the guys will have a look at some of the videos of his matches here, see if there's some extra things we can pick up from and take it from there.
Sabine Lisicki will play Marion Bartoli in the women's singles final at Wimbledon on Saturday. Bartoli won in straight sets against Kirsten Flipkens, while Lisicki beat Agnieszka Radwanska to become the first German woman to reach the final of Wimbledon since Steffi Graf in 1999. Formula One drivers could go on strike this weekend and refuse to take part in the German Grand Prix. That's the threat from the Grand Prix Drivers Association if there's a repeat of the tyre failures experienced during the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. Speaking before the Drivers Association statement was made, Milton Keynes-based US-based Red Bull driver Mark Webber says tyre manufacturers must adhere to the highest standards.
The teams have very strict rules on construction, crash tests, all these things, which we have to meet every year. And they're tough tests, so we need to make sure that the suppliers are doing the same.
In football, Luton Town have confirmed the departure of two long-serving coaches. The former assistant manager Alan Nielsen and goalkeeping coach Dimitri Kareen are both leaving. The club say manager John Still will appoint replacements in due course. And local non-league clubs will today find out their opponents in the early draws of the FA Cup and the FA Trophy. And that's your latest news and sport. I'll be back with more at 7.
We're asking, should the last bank holiday in August be Margaret Thatcher Day? I think it's a cracking idea. Well, on facebook.com/BBC3CR, Susan says no, and this is her reason, and her reason is flawed. No, politicians can have stone statues, but not days. They are for saints.
Oh.
Well, if a sausage can have a whole week, then surely a politician can have a day, can't they?
You'd think.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is Iain Lee.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
I think anybody can have a day. Really? I think that's feasible. Now, seriously, sausages get a week. National Sausage Week. We'll give Margaret Thatcher a day. Margaret Thatcher is at least 1/7 as good as sausages, isn't she? 08459 455 555 is the phone number if you want to give us a call on that. In the next 30 minutes, we'll be speaking to Nanny Eileen, Barry from Watford. And we'll also, we've got lots of stuff on the go at the moment. If you want to give us a call, please do. Now, the parents of 47 children with special needs in Stevenage say they feel let down following a decision to move their respite care home. The children are being moved from Wilbury House by Hertfordshire County Council following complaints of noise from its neighbours. Well, Katrina has a 16-year-old at the home and will now have to take her further afield to Welwyn or Hertford. Katrina joins me now. Morning, Katrina.
Morning.
Katrina, can you explain what special needs, it's a phrase I don't particularly like, but what special needs your daughter has and how they're catered for at the care home?
Okay, she's got complex health needs. She's got spina bifida, so she needs a lot of personal care, and she's in a wheelchair, so she needs an accessible place. And they refurbished Wilbury 4 years ago to a beautifully high standard, and it was just amazing to have somewhere that she could access in a wheelchair. And I think a lot of us have just, absolutely devastated that they're just closing that facility. They give with one hand and they're closing it, and we just got to go further afield now.
If it was refurbished 4 years ago, I'd imagine that wasn't cheap. Things like that are always quite expensive. Why are they shutting it 4 years later?
I think there have been complaints from the neighbours. A lot of it was about traffic because they started using Wilbury not just for overnights but for short breaks. So we'd have to take our children, drop them, pick them up. So there's a lot of traffic coming and going. And
when you say lots of traffic, how much? There's only were there 47 kids there?
Well, no, there's only ever about a maximum of 5 or 6 at a time. There's not 47.
Right, okay.
But obviously you've got a lot of staff.
Right.
Got to change.
Were there really complaints about the noise these children were making?
Well, there were, yeah. Because a lot of the other children are not just sort of complex health needs, but they've got autism, and so they're quite noisy sometimes, so they can't help it.
I'm shocked to hear that. Do we really live in a world where neighbours complain about noisy, autistic children? I'm shocked by that.
Well, I'm glad you are. Some people are and some people aren't. But we actually set out a petition to see what support we could get, and we got over 800 people signing it because what it comes down to is Herts County Council are breaking the terms of the lease with Letchworth, the Heritage Trust, because it was set up as a residential home and not as a short breaks home. So they would have to get the lease changed, and they gave us like 6 months respite till September to see if they could address the issues, and they obviously haven't been able to solve the problems. So they can't stay there, really.
So what's going to happen, Katrina? What will you have to do?
We'll have to. There's another centre in Welwyn and another centre in Hertford. So we've got to be fitted in with people there. So because they're not just shutting Wilbury, or they're not moving Wilbury people somewhere else, they're shutting it completely. So they're reducing the number of overnights that are available to people, because they've done a survey and they said people actually don't want that number of overnights. So,
explain to some people listening who perhaps don't understand just how important respite care is for the children involved and also for the parents.
Yeah. When you've got a disabled child that needs constant care, it is very, very tiring, and to make it a better relationship, the carers, the parents, actually need a break. Otherwise, you reach breaking point yourself. And to have an overnight stay means that you can go out with, your husband, you can go out with your children, your other children, because they lose out when you've got a disabled child as well on time. And you can, have a slightly normal life occasionally, and then you recharge your batteries, and then everybody's better. And the children themselves need to gain a bit of independence, because they get very dependent on the carer or the parents, and so it's very, very good for them, and they get to meet other people and trust other people, and it's just good for them as well.
Did you expect this decision?
After we'd had the decision at the beginning of the year, yeah, I was expecting that it wasn't going to get resolved, but yeah, it's still very upsetting, and but there again, I think we need to get something positive out of this. So if they are going, we've got to accept this is going to happen, and if now they're going to say they're going to sell Wilbury and then rip everything out, that would just be devastating. That would just be such a waste of public money.
What would you like to see done to the building?
I'd like it to transfer to adult care, and then make it a residential home for adult disabled.
Well, Katrina, keep listening. We'll put that point. Later on, we'll be speaking to Richard Roberts, who's the Cabinet Member for Children's Services at Hertfordshire County Council. He'll explain the decision to close Wilbury House, and we'll ask him what the plans are for the future of it. I'm shocked that people could complain about the noise that autistic and children with special needs were making. Oh, it's a bit noisy today. Can you hear that lot moaning over there? I think that's outrageous. 08459 455 555. Thank you very much, Katrina. As members of Parliament debate Europe again, what do you think? Would beds, hearts and bucks, would we be better off if we were in or out of Europe? Steve's in Dunstable. Morning, Steve.
Morning.
Better off in or out?
Out.
Why?
Well, we had 2 world wars to have self-rule, to rule ourselves. We didn't have 2 world wars and lose thousands of men to be dictated by Europe, surely.
Well, we had 2 world wars. We had 2 world wars to try and create peace.
Well,
and by being part of the European Union, we've not had any wars with anybody in Europe, have we?
Oh no, not in Europe. But we have all the way rest around the world, but not Europe.
But
maybe we could do with a war. Actually,
what?
Maybe we could do with a war. It might get the economy boosted up.
Well, you joke, but the Falklands gave Britain a kickstart, didn't it? But the wars that we're involved in, they're not wars; they're conflicts that we're involved in around the world. We're involved in those as Britain, not as part of the EU. So we would still be involved in those, whether we're in or out of Europe.
Yeah, well, the way the government run the wars, it's down to the generals to run the wars, not the politicians. That's why we get stuck in these wars around the world, don't we? Anyway, about Europe.
Yes, back to what we were talking about, Stephen.
We should be out of Europe anyway. I mean, trade with Europe. We were doing all right without being part of Europe before, in the 60s and the 50s and the 70s, whatever.
Yeah, the 80s?
So why not?
No. Steve...
Why should I have someone in Brussels dictate 70% of our rules?
Steve...
We're our own country, a sovereign country, are we not? We're a democracy of our own people. So why have we got other people interfering?
Steve, final thing. Margaret Thatcher Day. Would you celebrate that?
Yeah, why not? She had more balls than the blokes have today.
Thank you, Stephen.
On the other side of the street I knew stood a girl that looked like you. I guess that's deja vu, but I thought this can't be true, cause you moved to West LA or New York or Santa Fe or wherever to get away from me. Oh, but that one night was more than just right. I didn't leave you, cause I was all through. Oh, I was overwhelmed and frankly scared as hell, because On the upside to a downward spiral, my love for you went viral, and I loved you every mile you drove away. But now here you are again, so let's skip to how you've been and get down to the more than friends at last. Oh, but that one night is still the highlight. I didn't need you until I came to, and I was overwhelmed and frankly scared as hell because I really fell for you. Oh, I swear to you, I'll be there for you. This is not a drive-by. Just a shy guy looking forward to a fly. Have to bang a whole night. Love when you move me, everything is groovy. They don't like it, sue me the way you do me. Oh, I swear to you, I'll be there for you. This is not a drive-by. Please believe that when I leave, there's nothing up my sleeve but love for you and a little time to get my head together too. On the other side of a street I knew stood a girl that looked like you. I guess that's deja vu, but I thought this can't be true, 'cause
Oh dear, not many of you supporting the idea of making a bank holiday Margaret Thatcher Day. I'm surprised. Nick has texted in 81333, starting his text 3CR. Don't call it Margaret Thatcher Day. Why not call it UK Day? Shirley very simply says no to Margaret Thatcher Day. Zara says, instead of having a day where we celebrate Margaret Thatcher, we should have a day where we commemorate maybe some of the people or children that have been killed or have been victims of government schemes and policies. That would be a fun day, wouldn't it? 08459 455 555. Margaret Thatcher Day. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Some short delays on the M25 anti-clockwise as you go past junction 25 for the A10. This is as you come into the roadworks section with the 50 mile an hour speed restriction, and of course that runs through to the A1M at junction 23, but it's looking slowest right as you hit the 50 mile an hour restriction with a patch of heavy traffic there. Speed sensors aren't picking up too much else at the moment, and the cameras on the M25 further round not showing any other issues. It's looking clear for the minute past the M40 and down toward the M4, and the clockwise carriageway's moving quite nicely. No delays yet on the A1, usual spots that get quite busy for the moment, looking good certainly as you come toward the Black Cat roundabout from Eton Soken. It's looking alright, and the A1M is still looking clear through Stevenage. And on the trains we have no reported problems or delays. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. 6:45, it's Friday, the 5th of July. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. Plans for a referendum on Britain's membership of the European Union will be debated by MPs later this morning. A respite care home for children with special needs in Stevenage is set for closure. And in sport, Sabine Lisicki will play Marion Bartoli in the ladies' singles final at Wimbledon on Saturday. Coming up, Nanny Eileen. But before that, Nanny Rizzini.
Beds, hearts and bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Why am I nanny? Am I just looking after the weather for you today?
Yeah, let's pretend the weather are kids and you're looking after them.
All right, well, it's going to be warm, dry and sunny. I don't know what else you can ask for, actually, weather-wise. Some very good behaviour indeed. Lots of sunshine around. We're talking more like sunny spells rather than wall-to-wall sunshine today, because there will be some cloud bubbling up here and there, particularly through the course of the afternoon. But with very light winds, it'll feel very pleasant indeed. And we could be looking at something close to 25 or 26 degrees Celsius quite widely across the three counties. And actually, somewhere we might even catch a 27, which would be very nice indeed, wouldn't it? Very light winds, a lovely evening tonight. Of course, it's the men's semis at Wimbledon today, and I think it's going to be feeling very warm indeed. Lots of sunshine around. Overnight tonight, then we're looking at temperatures dropping to between 12 and 15 degrees in many of our towns. It's not going to feel quite as muggy as it has done in recent nights. Last night ended up being fairly fresh, despite the mild temperatures. We're probably looking at the same thing tonight. Some mist patches forming over the Chilterns. They'll quickly disperse into tomorrow. Tomorrow, even higher temperatures. temperatures and more in the way of blue sky and sunshine. We could be looking at 28 degrees Celsius quite widely across the 3 counties on Saturday, somewhere close to 30 degrees maybe by Sunday. The good weather's set to stay for at least the next week or so. But I'll have all the details, of course, day by day, because I suppose things could change. But confidence is very high for the next 2 weeks.
You dragged that a bit. Have you finished now?
Yeah.
All right. Shall I press
Enjoy.
Thanks very much. 08459 455 555.
Nick Coffer on BBC Three Counties Radio.
On Wednesday, I'll be live at one of the world's biggest horticultural events. The Hampton Court Palace Flower Show is in its 23rd year, and I'll be bringing you all the colour and excitement from this year's event. I'll be speaking to exhibitors from across beds, Herts and bucks about their blooms and bulbs, and we'll all be learning about the difference between a Lathyrus odoratus and a Sinapis arvensis. Join me live at the Hampton Court Palace Flower Show Wednesday from midday here on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. We're discussing the secrets of radio. Oh. Now, my highlight of the week, it's not talking to local councillors or MPs or winding up Mark Lancaster. No! The highlight for me is where I get to play a BBC introducing track and get it reviewed by the delightful Nanny Eileen. Good morning, Nanny Eileen.
Good morning, Iain.
How are you this morning, my love?
Fine, thank you. You sound very perky.
I don't feel perky. I am faking it to be making it. I'm hoping if I keep sounding perky, my body and my brain will kind of catch up with me.
Yes, I understand.
You had a nice weekend? Oh, yeah, let's do that again. Cut that bit. Had a nice week?
Yes, very nice, thank you. Haven't done very much, but I've had a lovely new front wall built. Oh. I know it doesn't sound very exciting to you, but...
No, things like that are exciting. I totally know what you mean.
Yeah, and it was built by this lovely young Asian guy.
Oh, okay.
He's only 20.
Yeah, here we go.
He did a course at Barnfield College.
Yes.
And he thoroughly enjoys his work.
Oh, then isn't that nice to see someone who enjoys their work?
Yes.
Now, Nanny Eileen.
Yes.
Listen, each week we get you on, and you must have been doing this for months now.
Yeah, aren't you getting fed up with me?
No, I'm not getting fed up of you at all. But I had a desperate phone call in the week from an elderly gentleman, Barry from Watford, who said, I would absolutely love to come on and review the BBC introducing track with Nanny Eileen. Would you mind? I kind of said, no, it's Nanny Eileen's gig. We're giving it to her.
Oh.
But he's insisted.
Oh, please let him.
So, Nanny, say hello to Barry.
Hello, Barry.
Poppycock.
Sorry?
Poppycock.
What do you mean?
I never phoned you up and begged to review you. I'm sorry, Eileen. Nice to speak to you too.
Thank you.
I am very perky, but you begged me.
I did no such...
You begged me. Well,
no.
Not how I remember it.
No, you wouldn't know, Barry. Yes.
Nonsense. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Begin.
I will do. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Now...
Hello?
Yeah, Barry, how old are you, Barry?
82 years old.
Okay.
Young.
Oh.
Young. Exactly.
Oh. So, but you both come from a different time, don't you?
What do you mean?
What I mean is, I'm still kind of young and hip with it, 40 years old.
That's a good one.
Yeah. But you come from, like, you know, from a different era. You didn't even have colour television when you were born, did you?
That is correct.
Yes. So what I'm trying to get...
Hold on a minute. How old are you?
40.
Well, you didn't have colour television when you was born either, presumably.
That's by the by. Yeah. Eileen.
He's not very good, is he?
Yeah.
He's brilliant. 1 minute he's asking you how your weekend was. Next minute he's faking his perkiness. Next minute he can't even do the simple maths. But he is lovely.
Oh, he is, yes.
He's lovely. All right, pencil neck, get on with it.
Eileen!
Yes.
Ignore him. Now, motor racing, you're a big fan of the Formula One, aren't you?
Yes.
They're all going to go on strike this weekend.
Yeah, I don't blame them after what happened last weekend with those tyres.
Well, didn't one of them got blown out in his car, didn't he?
Was it 5 that blew out?
5 of them? Oh, dearie me. Well, that's no good, is it?
One car?
Sorry?
No.
One car. No wonder they go so fast nowadays. Blimey.
they have got 5 wheels. They've got the steering wheel.
Oh, you know what? You have to get up very early to catch out Manor Island, didn't you? That's absolutely right.
Now, listen, the reason we're here, Barry and Eileen, is to review this week's BBC Introducing track. Now, Barry, do you know what BBC Introducing is?
No.
Okay. Shall I tell him, Eileen, or do you want to?
No, you tell him.
Okay, you don't know either, do you?
Of course I do.
Of course you do. Right. Now, BBC Introducing, it's a show, Saturday nights, BBC Three Counties Radio. It's for lots of local, unsigned, up-and-coming musical acts, groups, singer-songwriters, that kind of thing.
Got it.
Yeah, and each week we review the song.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so this week, it's a group called Big Sixes.
Okey-doke.
They're from Chesham, and their song is called The Hunter.
Oh.
Now, Barry, would you like to introduce it this week?
Ladies and gentlemen, they come all the way from Chesham. They're called the Big Sixes, and this is their track called The Hunter.
Oh, dear. Speak to you after this.
I'd rather be anyone but 21. My eyes are red and my mouth is numb. I've been talking to the ceiling. What a way to spend an evening. I'm not the type to kick up a fuss or leave things in the rain to rust. The walls are paper thin. You were warm as winter, white like cold. You used to hold me under, spin it unknown. And I had the walls of my feet, blew out as if you didn't care. You used to hold me under. I'd rather pass away than pass the time. Say nothing if I've got to say I'm fine. But I've been praying to a being that I'm not sure I believe in. I'm not the type to pull the one or get this high just to fool. But the ones are paper thin. I can hear every little thing. But the ones are paper thin. I can hear every little thing. You were warm as winter, white like cold. You used to hold me under, spin it unknown. And I had the wolves at my feet, and you laughed as if you didn't care. You used to hold me under. And I still believe.
Well, that's Big Sixes. They're from Chesham, and that's their song, The Hunter.
Loved it.
Part of... Sorry?
Loved it.
Let me finish the spiel. There's part
all right.
part of the BBC Introducing show you'll hear on Saturday nights with Gareth from 8 o'clock. Barry.
Really lovely. Yes.
Yeah,
I love that.
We'll get to you after we've spoken to Nanny Eileen. Nanny Eileen.
Oh.
Yeah, she's been doing it longer.
Yes, I enjoyed that. It was a bit repetitive, but I loved the way their voices blended.
Some very nice harmonies, weren't there?
Really nice. Do you know, I'm very keen on young bands. There's a young band on with me at the Watford Palace Theatre next Friday.
No. We're not going to.
I'm on at Watford Palace.
Yeah, we are not going to plug. I'm talking now. My show.
Yeah.
No, steady. We are not going to plug that. It's the BBC.
Well, even though it's me and the fast show's John Thompson a week tonight at the Watford Palace Theatre.
No one's.
I think your listeners would like to hear that.
I don't think they would.
See it?
For goodness sake.
They might like to grab a pen and write down the box office number.
No, they wouldn't, Barry.
Well,
Eileen. Mark's... Oh, for goodness sakes.
7:45 the curtain goes up. You come in, Eileen?
No. Not my
Eileen.
Come on, Eileen.
Oh, that's my theme song.
Yes, if that's the kind, if that's the kind of material they can hear, Barry, then no one's.
Just to recap, that's 7:45
No.
a week tonight at Watford Palace Theatre. Me and the Far Show's John Thompson.
Right, Eileen. I do apologise. Marks out of 10, Eileen, for the
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10 for the big sixes. And Barry, have you got a number?
I'd say 10. I really liked it.
Oh,
I
okay.
really liked it.
That's wonderful. Eileen, I do apologise that your slot has been hijacked.
Please don't apologise. It was huge fun.
Are you sure?
Yes, I am.
You are sweet. That's a free ticket for Eileen for my show. Friday.
Still there, Ian?
Am I what?
Are you still there, Ian?
I'm still here, just. I suspect I won't be here after the 7 o'clock news. I can see my bosses pacing around the corridor, looking furious.
imagine.
Eileen, have a lovely weekend. Enjoy the Formula One.
And you.
We'll speak next week. Ta-ta, my dear.
bye,
There we go. Barry, I'm not being funny. She is a lovely old lady.
Isn't she lovely?
And you were very rude there.
It wasn't rude. I'll speak to you next week. This time next week. I enjoyed it. Enormous fun.
No, you won't. That's it. It's a one-off.
Oh.
Ta-ta.
Cheeky monkey.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
I think Eileen came out best in that conversation. M25 anti-clockwise, heavy traffic as you come in toward the roadworks section. It's looking slow approaching junction 25 for the A10 around Enfield and Cheshunt. But apart from that, the M25 is actually flowing quite well this morning. No delays yet on any of the other cameras looking at the rest of the anti-clockwise stretch as you run round toward the M40. And the speed sensors aren't picking up any other delays around there either. Things on the M1 are looking clear past Luton. No delays at the minute past Milton Keynes too. And it's looking fine actually into and out of St Albans and Hemel Hempstead. Usually we see a little bit of a queue on the A41 coming down toward the M25, but for the moment that's running quite nicely. Train departure boards are showing no late runners, and there are no issues for the tubes into or out of London. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. Normal service will be resumed. I can only apologise for the last 15 minutes. So, Margaret Thatcher Day. What do you think? Good idea. If you wouldn't give it to her, who would you give it to? And would beds, hearts and bucks be better off if we were out of Europe? Speak to you after the news with Catherine Boyle.
On FM, AM, online and digital radio.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
It's 7 o'clock. The headlines: EU referendum edges closer, rural broadband running late, and Stevenage care home set for closure.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
MPs are preparing to debate a bill to put into law David Cameron's pledge on a referendum on Britain's membership of the European Union. He's promised a vote by the end of 2017 if the Conservatives win the next election. From Westminster, here's Carol Walker.
David Cameron is keen to emphasise his support for a bill which is close to the hearts of so many in his party. He's emailed Conservatives to say the party's united behind the bill being taken through Parliament by James Wharton, who became an MP at the last election.
It's got the full support of the Prime Minister, the Foreign Secretary, the leadership of the Conservative Party behind it, and it has the united support of Conservative MPs, which is so important because this is going to be a tough road. It's a difficult parliamentary process, but I'm confident that we can do it, we can get it through, and we can give the British people a say.
There's no government legislation because of opposition from the Tories Liberal Democrat coalition partners. Most Labour and Lib Dem MPs will abstain today, which means the bill stands a good chance of clearing its first hurdle, though it could easily be scuppered during its later stages.
A man is due to appear in court in West Yorkshire charged with murdering an elderly woman and attempting to murder a boy. Nathaniel Flynn is accused of killing Louisa Denby, who was 84, at her home in Shipley and stabbing the 9-year-old boy at a nearby skate park on Monday. The National Audit Office says plans to bring fast broadband to rural Britain are almost 2 years behind schedule and will end up providing £1 billion subsidy to just one company. Here's our technology correspondent Rory Kethlin-Jones.
The best superfast broadband network in Europe by 2015. That was what the government promised when it unveiled its plan to bring fast connections to 90% of UK homes. But the National Audit Office says the rural broadband programme is now 22 months behind schedule, and only 9 out of 44 local projects will hit their target of providing 90% coverage by May 2015. The NAO says the plan to have competition also hasn't worked. BT will be the sole supplier and will get £1.2 billion of public money. The Department for Culture said the government was delivering a transformation in broadband, while BT said it was providing excellent value for money.
A respite care home for children with special needs in Stevenage is set to close. Hertfordshire County Council had given Wilbury House a 6-month reprieve. Lorna Hankin has the details.
A consultation by the council asked parents whether they used overnight provision at the home, and over 50% responded no, so the council decided to close it. But those parents who do use it will now have to travel to Welwyn and Hertford for alternative care. They say they feel let down by the decision and want to know what the site will now be used for.
The first of 4 main road closures through Luton Town Centre happens tonight, as Lee Agnew reports.
Both of the flyovers are part of the town's inner ring road and are being shut to have their expansion joints replaced. Chapel Viaduct will be closed this evening and next weekend until early the following Monday. Park Viaduct will be closed for 14 nights in late July and August. Luton Borough Council says the work is dependent on dry weather and diversions will be in place to guide drivers across the town.
Andy Murray will face Jerzy Janowicz later today in his attempts to make it to his second Wimbledon men's final in 2 years. And the weather, dry with warm sunny spells and a top temperature of 25 degrees Celsius, that's 77 Fahrenheit. Get the latest news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties.
This is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. The first hour, did that actually happen? If you missed it, probably a good thing, to be honest. I was going to suggest you go to the iPlayer later on. Perhaps not. Perhaps not a good idea. Lots coming up between now and 9 o'clock, including, in this hour, can Beds, Herts and Bucks survive without Europe? Our local MPs will be in Parliament today talking about the EU referendum bill. There are persuasive arguments on both sides as to whether we should be in or out, but what do you think? I genuinely can't make up my mind on this. I don't have enough information to know what the best thing would be. So maybe you can sway me a little bit. Can Beds, Herts and Bucks survive without Europe? Bullying at school, does it live with you forever? A new charity is launched today as figures reveal a third of children where we are have thought about or attempted suicide before they reach the age of 16 because of bullying. And should the last bank holiday of the year be called Margaret Thatcher Day? Tory MP Peter Bone wants it renamed. He should probably rename himself. Well, if you don't fancy her getting the recognition, who should have it? Facebook.com/BBC3CR. You can send me a text, 81333. Start your text 3CR. Or give me a call, 08459 455 555.
Across Beds, Herts and Bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
What do you think? Beds, Herts and Bucks, can it survive without Europe? MPs are discussing the UK's relationship with the EU later. Some politicians say we should pull out of the European Union. Others say that would leave areas like Beds, Herts and Bucks without investment and put jobs on the line. Well, here are some feelings locally about the EU.
We're humans, we're flexible. The instinct to survive is good, therefore we will overcome whatever might happen. I didn't think the European thing was a good thing to start with anyway. I didn't actually vote for it. Then again, my vote doesn't make a difference if everybody else thinks differently.
I think we could survive without it. I don't think it's that important to the people of Luton. We've got other issues and I don't think that we particularly need the European Union to keep us going. I think Europe's got its own problems. Many countries like Spain, people like that have got their own problems, and I think Luton's got its own issues, and I think we'd be better off just independently trying to work them out rather than trying to get involved in other countries that have already got debts. I think we've got our own problems and we'd just be better off without them.
I didn't say we literally could survive locally without the European Union, but in principle I think it does provide jobs in the long run because of here we're a bigger market. The bureaucracy drives me mad. I suppose it does most people mad, but we've still got sort of the economics to think about.
Personally, I think we should withdraw. We used to be Great Britain. Can't see why we can't be it again. I think people are a bit fed up with how things are going, but yeah, I think probably general consensus is we should pull out. I think we used to be pretty self-sufficient as a country, and I don't see why we can't be again.
Well, it shouldn't have an impact. Obviously, it'd be completely different, wouldn't we? Be on our own again. But I think it'd be a good thing. In the end of the year, we've got all these Romanians and Bulgarians coming in. I mean, what effect is that going to have? There's going to be no kind of limit on it. So, I mean, and all the people else who work in this country already. It's a pathetic thing. That we spend more with them than they do with us. I don't think it won't be a disadvantage. Obviously things have changed, but I think it'd be an advantage more than a disadvantage.
Because a lot of people who work are from Europe, so it is very hard to England. But don't let so many people. Still, they can give some time at least. If someone come from Europe, give them about 3-4 years, and if they don't work properly like everyone else, don't pay tax and everything, then they can go from where they come.
Well, those are the opinions of people on the street. What do you think? Give me a call and let me know. Do you think that Beds, Herts and Bucks can survive without Europe? 08459 455 555. Joined now by Director of Business for New Europe, Philip Souter, and UKIP councillor and prospective parliamentary candidate for Milton Keynes, Lee Barney. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Morning. Philip, we'll start with you. What does Europe actually do for us here in the three counties?
Well, like the rest of the country, it provides access to the biggest trading bloc in the world without barriers or without let or hindrance, and that creates jobs and growth in this country.
We'd have access to that, though, even if we weren't part of the European Union, wouldn't we?
Well, it depends on the deal that you could...
we have access to America and China.
Not on the same terms. It depends on the deal that you could agree. Norway has access to the single market, but they don't have any influence, so they just receive the rules that the European Parliament and Council decide. They take them off the fax machine and they just cut and paste them into their own rule book.
But they do have access. They do have access to the market, though.
I know, but they don't have any say. So they're rule takers, not rule makers. At the moment, we have a huge amount of influence. We're the third largest country in the European Union after Germany and France, and we have a huge amount of influence on what goes on there.
Lee Barney, UKIP councillor, how do you respond to that?
Well, I think the point he's making is actually very valid. You know, if we are part of the European Union, yes, we do have a voice. But of course, if we leave the European Union, we have the only voice. We will set our own trade regulations with the countries like America, like China, like India and all other emerging markets. And I think that's much more important that we do that rather than be one small part of a much bigger collective.
Could we strike such good deals, Lee, if we weren't part of Europe? I'm talking about with countries like America and India.
Yeah, I think... Well, I would look actually at the deals that we could make with say, Germany. Already, you know, we're the biggest purchasers of their export cars. So I think we continue to do that, and I don't think we'd lose anything through removing ourselves from the European Union. If anything, we'd just gain ability to set our own trade levels.
Philip, we'd lose nothing. We'd only gain.
You wouldn't be able to make a deal just with Germany because the EU negotiates trade as a bloc, and the reason that it does this, and the reason that the UK supported this in the first place, was because it's more powerful as a bloc than on its own. If you speak to somebody like Kamal Nath, the former head of the Indian trade negotiating team, he said, look, I'm very happy to do a deal with just Britain. That's not a problem. I'll do it. But don't think for a second that the deal that you're going to get to access our market is going to be as good as if you're negotiating with the rest of the European Union. I mean, your listeners said some interesting things, for example, on migration, about, you know, the Romanians and Bulgarians that come here to this country. But the fact is, there are 1.4 million people, 1.4 million Brits living in other EU member states, and they could risk losing their pension rights if we lost. Also, on average, immigrants in this country from Europe put more into the exchequer than they take out, and they're less likely to be a burden on the NHS or social services. So there are actually a lot of myths out there, which is why we need to reform the European Union right now. We need to start the process right now because it's in our interests, but we need to make it work better.
Lee, there are a lot of myths out there about EU, and I would imagine that some people might think they are coming from your direction.
There are a lot of myths out there about the European Union, and I don't think we need to entertain those myths to prove just how much of a bad idea the European Union is. I just wanted to go back on one point there about the 1.5 million Brits living out in Europe. Yes, there are. Of course there are. but they're not going to lose their pensions just because we come out of the European Union. That's just complete rubbish to say that. So I'm not worried about that at all. The European Union question comes down to me about whether or not we want to set our own trading priorities, and I think that is something that we can do. Okay, yes, European Union is a much larger collective. They are going to have a purchasing power much larger than 65 million people in the UK. But we're going to get the deal that we want, that set by the people that are elected by the people of Britain, not by people of France, Germany, Spain, Portugal, Ireland, Greece, all those other countries that aren't necessarily as fiscally sound as what we are.
I know, but
we're putting our own house... Sorry, I'll let you talk. We're putting our own house in order, whereas they continue to try and put their own house in order, and yet countries like Greece are having their own house put in order for them.
I know, but Lee, nobody's forcing us to be a member of the European Union. And if you look at the, as tragic as a lot of the things that are happening in Greece and Spain are, and nobody can deny that, nobody is forcing them to be members of the euro. And if you look at the opinion polls, the majorities of the people there, they want to remain in the euro. So how do you explain that?
I haven't seen those opinion polls. I don't think that's true at all.
Lee, we're speaking...
the straw poll we had a minute ago.
Gentlemen, let me interrupt. Sorry, Lee, we're speaking of myths. And isn't one of the myths about Europe the UKIP line about it costing us £53 million a day?
I've heard varying figures, anywhere from 50 to 53 to 57. So
isn't it significantly less than that, though, once you factor in all of the benefits and the rebates and things we get as being part of Europe?
I don't think so. I mean, to be honest, and I'll be honest here, I've never seen the full justification as to why £53 million is there, nor have I seen 57.
Then why does UKIP keep spouting that? If its members haven't seen the full justification for it, it seems odd that they would keep spouting it.
I wouldn't say the rest of the members haven't seen it, just that I haven't seen it, and I can't. I don't.
As a member of UKIP, do you not think it's important to look at that? One of the biggest arguments that UKIP has for coming out of Europe.
It's the biggest argument we have for coming out.
Said it's one of the biggest. It's the one it's the headline grabbing one, isn't it? It costs us £53 million a day. Do you not think it's important to investigate those figures?
I believe there is a paper on it. It's extremely long.
You've not looked at it?
I haven't read it myself.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that figure is actually... I mean, that figure is wrong. It's based on old figures from a good few years ago, and it's also based on the gross contribution that we make. And it doesn't take account of the actual money in the budget that we get back. I mean, the reality is about half of that, roughly. I mean, it changes year to year. But the fact is, I mean, if you ask most people, so how much money do you think we give the European Union? They'll probably say something like, about 10% or a quarter or something. But the reality is it's about 1 to 1.5%. And what we get back for that is remarkable in terms of the trade and in terms of the influence that we can exert. But just on one point...
Very quickly, Philip, very quickly, then I'm going to come back to Lee to close up.
The pensions point was made by the House of Commons Library, and they're an independent research body. So it's not scaremongering by any extent.
Okay, Philip, we have to end it there. Lee, you've got 30 seconds to come back.
Philip's pointed out that, that it's not just about trade. There are other things that the European Union do, and there are other impacts that they have on us, such as setting our immigration levels, and they have a much larger impact, as has been identified by the House of Commons just yesterday and put in the papers.
Chaps, listen, we have to end it there. We're out of time. Thank you very much. I hope you both felt you got your points across. The last voice you heard there was Lee Barney, UKIP councillor and prospective parliamentary candidate for Milton Keynes, and Director of Business for New Europe, Philip Souter. Well, has that cleared things up for you? I'm slightly surprised that a member of UKIP wouldn't have read at least a summary of why UKIP claims it cost us £53 million a year. That seems a little surprising. It is the line that's trotted out a lot by that organisation. But what do you think? Has that cleared things up for you? Can Beds, Herts and Bucks survive without Europe? How does it affect you personally, living in the three counties? 08459 455 555.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Nothing particularly unusual on the roads at the moment. Everything seems to be moving quite well on the M40. Just looking at the cameras as you go past High Wycombe, and it's actually almost completely empty. Handy Cross roundabout is looking a little bit slow, but hey, it always does. The A1M is running fine through the Hatfield Tunnel. No delays as you head off past Stevenage. Short delays on the M25. Centres have been picking up a little bit of traffic as you come into the roadworks section, so it's looking slow from junction 26 at Waltham Abbey through to 25 at Enfield. And you might find a short queue on the A10 as you come southbound through Cheshunt toward the M25. It's also looking a little bit slow as you go from Maple Cross at junction 17 on the M25 M25 anti-clockwise round toward the M40 at junction 16. And the usual queues starting to build on the A1 southbound through Borehamwood, slow traffic from Stirling Corner toward Apex Corner. Still no problems though for the trains or tubes. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much, Adam. 7:17, Friday the 5th of July. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. MPs are preparing to debate a bill to put into law David Cameron's pledge of a referendum on Britain's membership of the European Union. 47 families in Stevenage will have to find alternative respite care for their disabled children as their current facility, Wilbury House, has been earmarked for closure. In sport, Andy Murray plays man mounting Jerzy Janowicz for a place in the Wimbledon's men's singles final today. He'll lose, he'll become Scottish again. The weather today in Beds, Herts and Bucks, dry, plenty of warm sunshine, maximum temperature of 25 degrees. What a lovely day to be stuck in a car, thanks. Coming up, something rather serious, and I'd be interested to know if this has affected you at any point in your life. Apparently a third of children across the east of England have thought about or attempted suicide before they reach the age of 16. Well, does bullying live with you forever? 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Every weekday from 3, Roberto Perrone.
The bosses of a Milton Keynes lorry driver who died after falling asleep at the wheel have been found guilty of manslaughter.
With the best local news stories.
At the moment, Christmas in Luton is at risk.
We'll do our best. We'll work with the business community and other sponsors to fund the Christmas lights.
The best local travel.
Multi-vehicle crash on the M1 northbound just as you come from the M25. It's going to get busy. 3 cars involved.
With the best local talking points.
Because I was born female, that was my first sin, if you like, and I don't think I've ever been forgiven for it.
Roberto Perrone, weekdays from 3 on BBC Three Counties Radio.
So, the last bank holiday of the year, should it be called Margaret Thatcher Day? Well, Tory MP Peter Bone wants it renamed. I would suggest he should rename himself before he starts renaming bank holidays. But, what do you think? I can't see an argument against this. Happy Margaret Thatcher Day. Oh, I forgot the Margaret Thatcher cake. I wonder what films are showing on Margaret Thatcher Day. Mary Poppins it'll be. Or The Love Bug. 08459 455 555. Well, we sent our reporter... We sent our reporter, Kelly Betts, out and about. Kelly, where are you?
Hi.
Hi there.
Hi, I'm just outside in Luton. Nice and sunny day.
Yes.
Just saying Happy Margaret Thatcher Day to people that I pass.
Happy Margaret Thatcher Day to you. I'm assuming... Did Justin's still away on holiday?
He is.
Sophie couldn't make it?
No.
No. Ollie's busy?
Ollie's busy.
Yeah, Gareth couldn't come in today?
Yeah, no, Gareth's busy as well.
OK, Louisa couldn't do it.
Ollie the cleaner.
Barry couldn't do it.
Can't do it. So
work experience. It's you. Well done you. Don't mess it up.
I'll try.
This is your big chance. So, You've been asking people about the prospect of Maggie Thatcher Day, have you?
I have, and I would like to say it's a mixed response, except most people aren't that bothered. Most people I asked were just like, well...
No speak English?
Yeah, some were. Some were just like, don't mind.
Well, this is going to make an interesting 2 minutes of audio, isn't it?
It is.
Shall we have a listen?
Hey, press play. So Margaret Thatcher, there could be a bank holiday named after her, and it could be the August 26th bank holiday. How do you feel about that?
Fine. No problem with that at all. I lived through her reign.
Oh, okay. And you were a supporter of her?
Yes.
I've not been in this country for long, so I don't really know what Margaret Thatcher stands for.
Is there anyone that you think should have a bank holiday named after them?
It depends on the people of the nation, what they feel about it.
Do you think our presenter Iain Lee deserves a bank holiday named after him?
I'm not really sure.
What about the Smurfs?
I have no idea.
So August 26th could be day for Margaret Thatcher. How do you feel about that?
If they name it after her, then name it after her. She was in power, and at the end of the day, she did what she thought was best. Just leave it as a bank holiday. What happened to just leaving things as they are and stop trying to change things and make it sort of bigger than what it really is?
Who do you think there should be a bank holiday named after? You're quite young. Do you think someone sort of cool, like, I don't know, Faith from Steps?
Faith from Steps, oh yeah.
Doesn't affect me too much, because obviously I was born after she did whatever she did. It's just I'm not really fussed.
What about yourself?
Quite similar, actually. Just as he said, she did everything she's done. It obviously affected my parents, so...
Do you feel that there is somebody who is deserving of a bank holiday being named after them?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Her.
Who would you say? Could be anyone in the world. Who would you think deserves it? Is there a rapper that you like?
So no, if anything, it shouldn't be named after anyone like that. If it should be named after her instead of anyone else.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
If you're going to put it in that type of category, because she actually did quite a lot for us, even though people didn't like what she did. She still did quite a lot, and it's actually this is the way we are now because of her.
Our presenter Iain Lee thinks that he should have a bank holiday named after him. What do you think?
Depends what he's done.
Just some telly stuff.
Then I don't think something like you have to do something that makes a real change.
Iain Lee or Margaret Thatcher? Who do you think should get the bank holiday?
Margaret Thatcher. Make more of a difference to the world.
She made more of a difference to the world.
Listen, I discovered Ricky Gervais and Ali G, right?
Oh, right.
So, when I say discovered, I mean I've been in the same room as them. So, I've done lots to influence. What rude young people they are. Aren't they rude? You finished?
Me? Yeah, I'm just going to have a cup of tea.
Nice one.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is Iain Lee.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
We've got, thank you, Kelly Betts. We've got some texts on should there be a Margaret Thatcher Day. I'll just read one at the moment. I'll read the rest later on. Claire says, no. That's Claire's opinion. Thank you, Claire. 08459 455 555. You can have your say on that as well. Now, something rather serious. Does bullying at school live with you forever? Here's a rather worrying statistic. A third of children across the east of England have thought about or attempted suicide before they reach the age of 16. A third. Well, to try and tackle this, a new charity is being set up by the people behind Beat Bullying. Mindful will help 11 to 17-year-olds who experience depression, stress or mental anxiety, giving them online access to counsellors providing support and advice. Well, I'm joined now by the anti-bullying programme manager for the Diana Awards, Alex Holmes. He's from Milton Keynes, was bullied himself and recently starred in a Channel 5 documentary about bullying. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning.
Alex, tell us what happened to you.
Well, when I was at school, I was picked on in primary school. It was mostly racism, and it was because my dad's black, and they would pick up on that, and they'd be quite nasty. And then that continued at secondary school, and it was mostly verbal bullying. But it would be at those times when I'd be feeling safe, I'd be feeling happy, and the bullies would say something or do something that would instantly ruin my day.
How did the primary... How old were you at primary school when you were getting racially bullied?
Well, I was about eight or nine in year 6.
How? Oh, I'm shocked to think that 8-year-old kids would be able to even spot the difference. I remember not spotting the difference until much later in terms of it. And how did this bullying, when you were at primary school and when you went to secondary school, how did it make you feel, Alex?
I think it made me feel shy, isolated and depressed, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I felt that my school didn't know how to deal with it, and it really did make me feel alone, and it affected my confidence and my moods, and I don't feel that I achieved the best that I could at primary school because of the bullying.
When you were in secondary school, did you mention it to people, your teachers at school?
Yeah, I did, actually. My school didn't really take it seriously at the start. They actually said that there isn't any bullying at our school, and that's an attitude. I think unfortunately when I was growing up that people felt that bullying was a normal part of life, a normal part of childhood, almost character building. And I think it does make you stronger, but no one should have to go through bullying in order to become a successful, stronger person.
Yeah, and at the time it's happening, of course, it can be horrific. I mean, there's this staggering figure that a third of children across the east of England have at least thought about or attempted suicide before they reach the age of 16. Did you ever get as far as that?
No, I didn't. And I think that's partly because I had quite a strong support network. I knew that there were people that could keep me safe and that could support me, but I think for a lot of young people, they're not aware of who they can go to and who they feel a little bit disconnected at times in the world that we live in.
Explain what the Diana Awards are and what they do.
So the Diana Awards is in memory of Princess Diana, who believed that young people could change the world, could shape the world that they live in. And we recognise inspirational young people, but we also run an anti-bullying programme for the government's Department for Education. And we want to equip young people and empower them to feel able to stand up to bullying, and we train the young people and their staff to come up with innovative methods, things like smile and compliment days that spread positive vibes in schools, things like patrols, drop-in sessions, just really led from the young people who can really change their school, because we spend 11,000 hours of our life at school, and I think it's so important that we address some of those issues of safety and well-being.
Can we ever change it, Alex? Because kids are kids, you know, and they are... The bullies are generally, not always, but they're generally damaged goods as well. And you know, kids do spot vulnerabilities and they attack them, whether physically or verbally. Can we ever stop bullying?
I think that's a good point. I don't think we'll ever get rid of it, but I think it is about difference. I was picked on at school because I was different. Difference wasn't celebrated as much as it could be, and I think when you empower young people and you get them excited about the part that they can play in their world, in their school, in their community, then they can start to think about how they treat others, and just giving them that bit of responsibility of training and equipping them with some knowledge can make them leaders in their school and future leaders. So I think we absolutely can. It just takes a little bit of inspiration, and particularly schools, every school has to have an anti-bullying policy, but that's just a piece of paper. That paper needs to come alive, and there needs to be active stuff, assemblies, there needs to be events, so that we constantly get the message across that actually bullying isn't acceptable and it shouldn't happen, but more importantly that there are people you can go to if you ever have a problem or a worry or a concern.
Alex, I appreciate your time this morning. It's Alex Holmes from the Anti-Bullying Programme Manager for the Diana Awards. I'm just thinking, listen, we've got Kelly Betts on standby as our reporter today. Hopefully we're going to get professional back next week. I say professional, I mean Justin Dealey. Can we send Kelly Betts out, A, to get an egg sandwich, but B, I'm just kind of keen, as you know I don't know a lot about tennis, I don't think Andy Murray stands a chance today. Look at the fella he's against. He's 6'8", he's muscular, he's ripped his shirt off. I've tried that once, I've never been able to do it. Can we send Kelly Betts out, just to get the public opinion on Andy Murray? Do we think he's going to win or lose today? It's all I want. Just a little straw poll. Andy Murray, does he stand a chance, or will he be Scottish again by 6 o'clock this evening? This bloke is massive. Massive. Kelly Betts, that's your mission. Should you choose to accept it? Should you not? Well, then that's a disciplinary action, because you're contractually obliged to actually do what I say.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The M25's getting progressively slower. You've still got the short delays coming in toward the roadworks section anti-clockwise from Waltham Abbey toward Enfield Junction 26 to 25. It's starting to look busy in the roadworks section now as well. So as you go past Potter's Bar and come toward the A1M at junction 23. It's a bit slow as well as you continue around toward the M40, junction 17 to 16. Looks like there might be a little bit of a delay. Not a massive queue by any means. The A1 slowing up a bit at the Black Cat roundabout from Eton Soken, but not as slow as the average weekday morning. Into and out of Milton Keynes, no problems at present. All looking quite clear through Aylesbury. The A41 looking fine as you come from Hemel Hempstead down toward the M25, but you have got delays as you drive into London on the A1 through Boreham Wood southbound. It's looking slow with a little queue from Stirling Corner toward Apex Corner. If you're travelling by train or by tube though, your journey should be a better one. No problems so far today. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. 7:30, News and Sport now, Catherine Boyle.
Across beds, hearts and bugs.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. The headlines. MPs are preparing to debate a bill to put into law David Cameron's pledge of a referendum on British membership of the EU. The National Audit Office says plans to bring fast broadband to rural Britain are almost 2 years behind schedule and will end up providing £1 billion subsidy to just one company. And 47 families in Stevenage will have to find alternative respite care for their disabled children as their current facility, Wilbury House, has been earmarked for closure.
Three Counties Sports.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Andy Murray takes on Jerzy Janowicz for a place at Wimbledon's men's singles final today. For Murray, it's his fifth successive Wimbledon semi-final, but Janowicz says he won't be overawed by the occasion.
I know what to expect from the centre court because I played already one match there against Nicolas Almagro. I know crowd will try to help him a lot, but I hope I'm gonna win.
Sabine Lisicki will play Marion Bartoli in the ladies' singles final on Saturday. Bartoli won in straight sets against Kerstin Flipjans, while Lisicki beat Agnieszka Radwanska to become the first German woman to reach the final of Wimbledon since Steffi Graf in 1999. In football, a statement on the Grays Athletic website suggests the Essex club's manager, Hakan Hanretin, is to leave to become Luton Town's assistant manager. That follows Luton Town's announcement yesterday that former assistant manager Alan Nielsen and goalkeeping coach Dimitri Karin are both moving on. And local non-league clubs will today find out their opponents in the early draws of the FA Cup and the FA Trophy. In rugby, the British and Irish Lions assistant coach Graham Rowntree says tomorrow's deciding third test against Australia is the biggest game of the squad's lives. The Lions go into the match knowing a win would secure their first series win since 1997.
As coaches, a lot of us have been involved in grand final games. This is the biggest one for us. We've refreshed ourselves a couple of days. It was important to switch off after last week, and we've restocked the team, made some changes there, and lads are ready to go. And the word I'd say is desperate. We want this game tomorrow.
And that's your latest news and sport. I'll be back with more at 8 o'clock.
This is Iain Lee
on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning, Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio, here every weekday between 6 and 9. You can download the podcast as well. Go to the BBC Three Counties homepage and follow the links for podcasts, or go to iTunes, type in Iain Lee, IAINLEE, and it pops up. A new one will be released today. It's kind of about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, something like that. I don't know. Lots coming up in the next 30 minutes, including Women Bishops and Margaret Thatcher Day. Loads of you. It's funny, some things we put on Facebook, we get a few comments, and it's kind of nice. Some things, like the Margaret Thatcher Day, you put on Facebook and you go mental for. Lots of comments on there. We'll have a look at those, some of those before 8 o'clock. 08459 455 555. And Hanson are going to be on the show before 9 o'clock. I know. No, bear with me. Honestly, their new single is brilliant, and they're playing that live for us a little bit later on. I say live. Kind of is on. I'll explain later. You've got to be very transparent at the BBC these days, haven't you? You have to be. We recorded it yesterday. Now, the parents of 47 children with special needs in Stevenage say they feel let down following a decision to move their respite care home. The children are being moved from Wilbury House by Hertfordshire County Council following complaints of noise from its neighbours. Well, Richard Roberts is in charge of children's services at the authority. Richard, what kind of children did Wilbury House cater for?
Good morning, Ian. Thanks for getting me on this morning. The children and the families of those children, they're disabled children. And Wilbury House, up to now, has been offering respite care. So it's not a children's home in the classic sense that we'd understand it, but offering visits after school and some overnight stays.
Why is it being closed down?
The issue we have is that having one big facility like Wilbury House, which is a very expensive facility costing about £1 million a year, doesn't give parents the choice and flexibility about what their children can do and what they can do as a family and how we support them as families. And I think we've had a really positive dialogue with the families that use the Wilbury House, and I'm positive that the future for the support of families with disabled children is around choice, flexibility,
and having to drive an hour away at a time.
Say that again.
And having to drive quite a big distance to get to other facilities.
Well, actually, one of the issues is that Wilbury House is on the edge of Letchworth, and you mentioned about families in Stevenage. So for families in Stevenage, being on the edge of Letchworth doesn't help develop community links, doesn't help if we've got people in the community willing to volunteer to help families with disabled children. That wraparound care that communities want to provide for families with disabled children isn't going to take place if we've got one facility on the.
But if it's nearer,
yeah.
Surely it's a big deciding factor. If people want to drop their kids off for a couple of hours or for an overnight stay or something like that, surely it needs to be nearer, doesn't it? If there's a facility near them, why should they move further away, drive further away?
I think, Ian, we've probably reached the stage where we've got to be a little bit mature about what we offer parents. Up to now, parents have been told this is what is available. What I'm saying is that there is an opportunity now to give parents more choice and flexibility. They can decide how they
Richard, it does sound, with the greatest respect, to say we have to be mature about what we can say we can offer to parents, it does sound a little bit patronising. Is this closing down to save money? You mentioned the figure of £1 million a year. Is it just to save money?
No, but you can't have your cake and eat it.
What does that mean?
If you're going to spend £1 million on Wilbury House, you're not going to spend £1 million on giving parents personal budgets, flexibility, community services, building up links with the voluntary sector, building up links with volunteers.
So it is to save money?
56% of parents, when we went and had detailed conversations with them, and we've spoken with every one of them that uses Wilbury, 56% don't actually want to use Wilbury House. So we are providing a facility that more than half the people that use it don't want it.
Well, we heard earlier on that many people were saying that because their kids are quite young and they don't realise that when they become a little bit older, they will need the services of somewhere like Wilbury House.
No, I think that because their services haven't been there, the support to families who've got children with behavioural difficulties, we need to build these
Richard,
up.
seriously, do you know what? Do we live in a place where a council refuses to spend £1 million a year to look after sick and disabled children? Is that the kind of society we want to be in?
Iain, we spend an awful lot more money than that. I think for disabled children, we're talking.
But you're closing. You're talking about choice and flexibility. You are removing an avenue of that choice.
No.
The respite care for these parents. The respite care for these parents and these children is invaluable. It is priceless, and you are taking that away from them.
And more than half are saying they would like to do something different. Some are saying, about a quarter are saying, we really want to have our overnight stays. And there are places available in Hertfordshire at other respite care homes where this can take place. We're not precluding them from that. What we're saying is that we need to offer a better deal for parents. The government believes so. The government is looking at this. We are a champion in Hertfordshire for looking at...
But it's not a better deal. If you're removing a facility that is invaluable to the parents and to the kids that use it, then that's not offering a better service, is it? That's closing down a thoroughly decent service.
And Ian, I think we're getting rather circular here. If more than half the parents don't value the service that we're providing, isn't it beholden on us to look at doing things in a different way?
No, you ignored the point. Richard, do I need to repeat the point I made earlier, or do you want to respond to it?
There are respite care homes in Hertfordshire, Jubilee House, for example, and the Pines, and down in South West Corner, which provide respite care.
So, but why? This is basically does boil down to money, doesn't it? You're kind of fudging around it, but it is to save £1 million a year. And we know that budgets. We know that in times of austerity, budgets are tight and money's being cut everywhere. And if you can save £1 million a year, then of course you're going to, aren't you?
We're not saving £1 million a year.
Well, it costs you £1 million a year, so I'm assuming that money's being spent elsewhere, is it?
It is being spent with parents and for parents of families with disabled children.
£1 million a year is being reinvested.
We're reinvesting that money back in with those parents. I asked only the other day. There's very little saving coming from closing Wilbury House.
It was revamped, wasn't it, 4 years ago? How much did that cost?
Significant amount of money.
How much?
Times were different then.
Well, how much?
I suspect it runs into hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Okay, and you're just writing that off?
As I say, Iain, we're either going to look after buildings or we're going to look after families, and I know where my energies are going to be.
Well, yeah, with families, but you spent hundreds of thousands of pounds on revamping this building to look after these families, and now a few years later you've just suddenly decided, oh, actually, no, hang on, oh, that was silly, we don't even need that building.
Iain, you and I both know that times have changed, and we don't have the money flow.
So it is about money, Richard. This is the thing. You keep saying it's not about money. Then you trot out phrases like, times have changed, we don't have the money. So it is about money.
It absolutely is about money, but it's about spending it wisely with families of disabled children. And I think we are beholden to doing that. And I think the thinking has been so rigid in the past that we've not provided the right kind of services, the choice and flexibility families are looking for.
You've wasted several hundred thousands of pounds. That was a waste.
Well, it was a government initiative aiming high for disabled children. It was the latest fad. It came from the last government.
Oh, aiming high for disabled children is a fad.
Money was more prolific at the time.
Wow.
It isn't now.
It's a fad to aim high for disabled children?
No, I said it was a government fad. It was a government initiative. Government, having given us some money, government then walked away from that. That was the previous government.
What's going to happen to the building now? That's one of the concerns of one of the parents we spoke to earlier on in the show.
I think that's quite exciting, and I know because I personally have been. I've been to visit Wilbury House, and I visited the residents locally and with the parents 6 times, I think, as well as the chief executive of the Letchworth Heritage Foundation, John Lewis. So I'm excited about the possibility of this building.
Well, what's going to happen?
I hope, well, it's not my decision, but I hope that we can be able to accommodate perhaps older, young adults or older people with disabilities in this building, which would be great because it would give them a lovely home within Letchworth.
So it is still going to be used for people with disabilities?
It could be, yeah, or it could be with learning disabilities.
What are the other options then? If it's not going to be for people with disabilities, what are the other options that are being discussed?
Well, that would be, the other options might be that the building, because it's a building, so it could be sold, and I wouldn't like to say what would happen to it then.
Well, it could be knocked down for houses?
It could, the option...
Right, OK, so
yeah.
how again, this is a lot of fudging here, Richard. How likely, in percentage terms, is it to remain as a facility for those people who have special needs?
I would say quite high, actually. Currently, adult care services, that's the adult care services at the County Council, are evaluating the building for accommodation for people with learning disabilities and difficulties.
But it could be sold for a profit?
All of our property, when it comes up, when it's no longer being used for what it's previously been put there for, we offer it up for sale if we don't need to use it.
OK, and is it going to be offered up for sale?
I've just said adult care services are currently evaluating...
Okay. Surely it's beholden to you, to use your own phrase, to look after people who, if that building is there and has had hundreds of thousands of pounds spent on it in the last few years, it's beholden to you to make sure you don't lose money on that and to still provide services for people.
Absolutely, couldn't agree with you more.
Excellent, well, we look forward to seeing that. Final thing, is it true that neighbours complained about the noise?
They did, yeah, absolutely.
And did you give them short shrift?
We have
autistic and disabled children. Autistic and disabled children making noise. Is that really appropriate for neighbours to complain about that?
I think it's absolutely appropriate for them to complain about that. It's us. We have to work with the community. That's exactly what we have to do. We can't work in isolation.
Do you not think it's disgusting that some of the neighbours, not all of the neighbours, that some of the neighbours complained that there were some kids making funny noises over the fence because they're disabled and autistic? Do you not think that's shameful?
No, not at all. I think the way we work with our neighbours is really important because we just said this is a house, this is a home that could well be there for long into the future for older people, adults who may live there, and this will be their home. Okay. There's no way I'm going to start vilifying neighbours.
You think it's acceptable for people to complain about the noise that disabled children make?
I don't think the complaints were limited to the
no,
noises.
But those specifically, do you think it's acceptable for people to complain about the noises that disabled children make?
I think that we need to work with our neighbours, and if we are creating noise, whether it's from children or whether it's from adults, or parking and slamming of doors and that sort of thing, and also people coming and going off at the end of their shift.
Of course. So in conclusion, Richard, and I'm trying not to put words in your mouth, but you're dodging ever slightly. You're saying it is acceptable for people to complain about the noises that disabled children make.
I think it's acceptable for people to complain about noises, and then we work out.
And even if they come from disabled children.
Even if they come from disabled children.
Thank you very much indeed. There we go. It's acceptable to complain about the noises disabled children make. 08459 455 555 745.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
If your commute to work this morning involves rail, then you're looking like you're going to have a good journey because we've got no problems on the trains for the moment, and tubes to and from London seem to be running without issue as well. Looking at the roads, and by and large everything's actually moving quite well. We've got a couple of problems on the M25. Anti-clockwise, there's now a lane closed as you come from Waltham Abbey toward Enfield into the roadworks. A multi-vehicle accident through there. Lane 3 is blocked off after a 4-vehicle accident, but I've been told by the Highways Agency it's quite a minor accident, so hopefully that will be moved out of the way at some point soon. But Nonetheless, traffic is looking heavy as a result. It's also busy then once you get past that through the roadwork section toward the A1M, and you'll find some delays from Maple Cross at junction 17 toward the M40 at junction 16 as well. London Coney, coming to the London Coney roundabout on the A414, eastbound looking a little bit slow. The A1 into London starting to look busy as well, with stop-start traffic through Boreham Wood from Stirling Corner toward Apex Corner. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, thank you very much. Right, 7:46, it's Friday the 5th of July. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. MPs are preparing to debate a bill to put into law David Cameron's pledge of a referendum on Britain's membership of the European Union. 47 families in Stevenage will have to find alternative respite care for their disabled children as their current facility, Wilbury House, has been earmarked for closure. In sport, Andy Murray plays Jerzy Janowicz on centre court later for a place in the Wimbledon men's singles final. Coming up, the Church of England's Parliament, the General Synod, are meeting today to discuss creating women bishops again. After the measure was blocked last time, they discussed it. Well, we talk about this every few months. It rears its head. What do you think? Should women be allowed to become bishops? 08459 455 555. Let's get the weather with Elizabeth Rossini.
Beds, Herts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Hello, very good morning to you. There's going to be lots of sunshine around today. A really glorious start to this little heat wave that's going to be with us, I think, for the rest of the week into next week, possibly even for a period after that, but of course all to play for there. It's going to be lots of sunshine around today, more like sunny spells this afternoon with some cloud bubbling up here and there. Temperature-wise, we're talking 25 or 26 degrees Celsius, I think, somewhere across the three counties. We could even catch a 27 degrees Celsius, so it's going to be feeling very warm, if not hot, today, tomorrow and for Sunday as well, when those temperatures are really going to peak off. As we head into this evening and overnight, a lovely way to end the day. Overnight tonight, temperatures dropping to between 12 and 15 degrees. There will be some mist patches tomorrow morning that will quickly disperse. Light winds all the way tomorrow. Even higher temperatures, we could be looking at 28 degrees. By Sunday, we could be pushing 29 or even 30 degrees Celsius. Lots more in the way of sunshine, blue skies, not very much cloud at all. Into next week, the high pressure is staying with us. The temperatures will probably plateau between sort of mid to high 20s. If you're headed towards the east coast, just bear in mind we may just get some low cloud plaguing things at times, so something to bear in mind there. But across the three counties, it's just going to be beautiful. There we go, that's the forecast.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
It's a test of skill.
Oh, what a climactic finish to another remarkable test match.
It's a test of teamwork, a test of stamina, a test of pride. We call it the Ashes. England versus Australia. Every single ball, wherever you are. Home of the Ashes on the radio is Test Match Special. The Ashes starts Wednesday from 11. Full live coverage across the BBC and ball-by-ball commentary on 5 Live Sports Extra and BBC Radio 4 Longwave. Go to bbc.co.uk/cricket to find out more.
08459 455 555. Should we name a bank holiday after Margaret Thatcher? I think it's a wonderful idea. Love her or hate her, she certainly struck a chord with people, didn't she? And having Margaret Thatcher Day makes perfect sense. Happy Margaret Thatcher Day. The likers would love it, and they'd be saluting, and they'd be celebrating, and they'd have bunting. The haters would love hating it. They'd be protesting. Make bank holidays a little bit more interesting. Well, a Conservative MP thinks we should do this. He's hoping to get the issue debated in the Commons today. Peter Bone has put forward a bill to turn the bank holiday at the end of August into Margaret Thatcher Day, saying she should be honoured for transforming the country. But a former Conservative MP and a friend of Margaret Thatcher, Michael Brown, thinks the Iron Lady would have been appalled by the idea.
Margaret Thatcher hated holidays of any kind. She hated going on holiday, and she looked for any excuse to come back to deal with a national crisis if she could find one. And the idea of a bank holiday in honour of Margaret Thatcher she would find thoroughly dreadful. And she would say, get on with your work and let's stop all this nonsense about holidays. We've got work to do.
We've got work to do. So what do you think? Margaret Thatcher, should we have a Margaret Thatcher Day? 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. If you don't want to give it to Thatcher, who would you give it to? There's a question. 81333. Start your text 3CR. Do let me know, and we'll see. I just think it would be a great idea, wouldn't it? It's not an extra bank holiday. Don't get excited. Don't start planning to. It's not an extra bank holiday. It's going to be the existing one, the one towards the end of August. There's one coming at the end of August. Wonderful. Happy Margaret Thatcher Day. Oh, I forgot. Oh no, I forgot to send you that Margaret Thatcher card. Oh, did you get the Margaret Thatcher cake in for the kids? No. Nuts. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call. Go to facebook.com/BBC3CR. Lots of you have been having your say on Facebook. It's one of those things that's got you fired up this morning. Oh my goodness, look at that. Jenny says, I'd rather... Oh, it's a dig at me. I'd rather Iain spent his time focusing on local issues and representing the local people on that. Well, this is a local issue, Jenny. This is a I've heard that criticism before. Sometimes it's correct. It's not correct here. If we had a Margaret Thatcher Day, it would affect you in beds, hearts and bucks. You silly sausage. Aidan says we should have a Winston Churchill Day before a Margaret Thatcher Day is even considered. And Yenda says, good heavens, no! How polite, Yenda. Thatcher wrecked whole communities and her policies are still having a negative effect today. No Prime Minister has done less for the working man and more for the aristocracy. A day in her name is a joke. Andy says, no, Andy, this is schoolboy politics, or schoolgirl. Let's face it, no politician has ever done any good for the country. What? None at all? They're all in it for themselves. They're all remembered for their own shortcomings and are all as bad as each other. The mere suggestion of giving individuals their own day beggars belief. There are people who deserve more recognition for services to our nation rather than overpaid government members. Well, 08459 455 555. A lot of you aren't seeing the bigger picture here. Now, I can't believe this problem is popping up again. I can't believe it's a problem. I can't believe this hasn't been sorted out already. It's the subject of women bishops. It's being discussed again today. The Church of England's ruling synod is meeting under growing pressure to solve the problems blocking the move. Traditionalist Anglicans who oppose women bishops say they're being offered even fewer concessions in the latest proposals. Well, it's a big task for the new Archbishop of Canterbury, who's presiding over the synod for the first time. Well, in a minute, we'll hear from Christina Rees from Hertfordshire, who's a member of the General Synod. But before that, let's speak to our religious affairs reporter, Alex Strangeways Booth. Good morning, Alex. How big a challenge is this for the new Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby?
Well, this is a significant challenge. You know, he spoke in the last debate in November, and a lot of people felt his intervention as Archbishop of Canterbury-elect then might have swayed enough votes to get it through, but it didn't. He's placed a lot of personal emphasis on the need to resolve this, so failure would be difficult for him. It could possibly undermine his authority in the long run as well. Also, he's been given a reputation for being good at conflict resolution because in his previous career on behalf of the church, he spent a lot of time in war-torn parts of Africa in conflict resolution. But the big question is, can he do the same at home?
What's the deal on the table? What's being offered?
Well, there are 4 options being put before Synod over the next few days, and realistically only 2 of them are likely to stand up, really, and the bishops have made it clear that their support lies with the first. So option 1 will get rid of this idea of flying bishops, you know, bishops who come in and minister to people who don't want female clergy and female bishops. So that wouldn't happen anymore. Traditionalists would be provided for, but it doesn't specify how, and that provision wouldn't be written into the law. Then you've got option 2, which is the same, gets rid of the flying bishops, provides for traditionalists, but that provision would be written into the law, so it'd be really hard to change it in the future. That's the one traditionalists like, but option 1 is the one the bishops want.
It's going to happen at some point, isn't it, Alex? When?
It has to happen at some point, yes. And what we're looking at really is the final vote taking place when a new synod is elected in 2015. So, you know, it's still got a couple of years to go. There'll be an entirely new group of people who'll be voting on it compared to last time. So you have to keep in mind that it was voted out by a tiny majority in the House of Laity last year. So it could be that this new measure, which offers traditionalists less than they had before, is relying on there being more liberals on the synod when it comes to the final vote.
Alex Strangeways Booth, that's our religious affairs correspondent. Thank you very much. Let's speak to Christina Rees now from Hertfordshire, member of the General Synod and supports the ordination of women. Christina, why do we need women bishops?
Well, why do we need bishops at all? We're now live in a world and an age where men and women are considered equal by most in society, and we've got over the surprise and shock of having women as doctors, women as lawyers, women as tube drivers, all that sort of thing. This is a change that, as Alex says, it's going to come. I'd like to think that it may come even with this synod, if possible, because, as she pointed out, it only fell in one of the three houses and only by 6 votes. Overall, it gained a majority of 75%, which is the type of majority politicians would give their eye teeth for. So overall, the Church has made it very clear it wants to have women bishops, it agrees with it, it thinks it's the right thing to do. The problem seems to be in the detail of making arrangements for those in the Church who remain opposed. Now, some people find it hard to believe that there are people who still think women shouldn't be ordained and women shouldn't share in the senior leadership, which is what bishops are, the senior ordained leadership in the Church of England. But I think they're not a majority of those people in the Church by any means. The vast majority of people just do fail to understand why we're still squabbling about this at all. So I think the time is right, and what we're going to do today, I'm going up to York where the synod begins, is we'll be discussing it tomorrow, talking about it, and on Monday, looking at the option 1 that Alex outlined, which is let's have women bishops and let's keep the arrangements simple and not in the law so that it's not difficult to change as time moves on.
Thank you very much. Very quickly, Christina, before we go, when do we think we're going to see women bishops?
Well, if all goes according to plan, I'd like to think that we'd see the first woman bishop by maybe 2015, 2016, and high time too.
We're going to get loads of calls from people who still object to this. Finally, Christina, what on earth is going on in the background? Are you torturing a cat or something?
No, I have interesting exotic fowl out in the garden.
What are they? They're making a terrible racket.
I live on a farm and I've got, this is going to sound really weird, but as well as sort of chickens and sheep and things that I've had over the years, I also have some peafowl.
Christine,
now, I'm sorry, you heard it here first,
yes,
Ian. I wasn't going to tell.
It's exclusive. Let's make peafowl bishops, shall we? Christina, nice to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Christina Rees from Hertfordshire and her peafowl. What a racket.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
We've still got slow traffic on the M25 anti-clockwise. That's after the accident earlier between Waltham Abbey and Enfield. I did say they were going to move it out of the way quite quickly. All lanes have indeed reopened. They got that all sorted about 5 minutes after our last bulletin. So lane 3 was blocked off for a short time there. It's looking a bit slow as you continue round through the roadworks, and then you'll find it busy anti-clockwise again from Maple Cross toward the M40, but nothing too bad actually compared to some mornings. The A1 looking a bit stop-start into London through Boreham Wood between Stirling Corner and Apex Corner, but that's not as bad as it could be either. Things moving quite well further up on the A1, with only short delays coming toward the Black Cat roundabout. A little bit of traffic coming along the Bromham Road into Bedford, the A4280, and everything running quite nicely on the A5 and the A505. Trains and tubes also looking pretty good. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much, Adam. Well, no one on Facebook is giving the thumbs up to a Margaret Thatcher Day. Oh, really? Keith saying we should have a Nadine Dorris Day, where we all take the day off. Oh, Keith, that's naughty.
On FM, AM, online and digital radio.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
It's 8 o'clock. I'm Catherine Boyle. The headlines: MPs vote on EU referendum, Stevenage care home set to close, and Audit Office concerns over rural broadband.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Plans for a referendum on Britain's membership of the European Union will be debated by MPs later. The bill is backed by David Cameron, but most Labour and Liberal Democrat MPs will not be voting, saying it's a distraction. It's been put forward by the Conservative MP James Wharton.
It's got the full support of the Prime Minister, the Foreign Secretary, the leadership of the Conservative Party behind it, and it has the united support of Conservative MPs, which is so important, because this is going to be a tough road. It's a difficult parliamentary process, but I'm confident that we can do it, we can get it through, and we can give the British people a say.
The army in Egypt is calling for national reconciliation as supporters of the ousted President Mohamed Morsi plan a day of mass rallies. Mr Morsi and other senior Muslim Brotherhood figures remain in custody. A man charged with the murder of an elderly woman and the attempted murder of a boy in West Yorkshire is due in court today. 26-year-old Nathaniel Flynn's accused of killing Louisa Denby and stabbing the 9-year-old in a skate park on Monday. Anthony Birchley reports.
West Yorkshire Police found the body of Louisa Denby, who was 84, at her home in Shipley on Monday. She'd been stabbed to death. Officers had gone to the house as part of the investigation into the stabbing of a 9-year-old boy at a skate park in the town. The boy, who's been named as Jason Darcy, is still in hospital in a stable condition. Nathaniel Flynn, who lives at the same address as Mrs Denby and is believed to be her grandson, has also been accused of possessing an offensive weapon and of assaulting a 59-year-old man with an iron bar in Shipley on Monday evening.
The Church of England's ruling synod meets in York today under growing pressure to solve the impasse blocking the introduction of women bishops. Traditionalist Anglicans who've repeatedly defeated legislation to create women bishops say they're being offered even fewer concessions in the latest proposals. 47 families in Stevenage will have to find alternative respite care for their disabled children as their current facility, Wilbury House, has been earmarked for closure. Hertfordshire County Council gave Wilbury a 6-month reprieve pending the results of a consultation, but now the final decision has been made. This mother, who wishes to be known only as Katrina, has a 16-year-old daughter who uses the home.
They refurbished Wilbury 4 years ago to a beautifully high standard, and it was just amazing to have somewhere that she could access in a wheelchair. And I think a lot of us have just, absolutely devastated that they're closing it, and we've just got to go further afield now.
The 900,000th van has rolled off the line at Luton's Vauxhall plant. It will be handed over to the AA later this morning to become part of their fleet. In sport, Andy Murray plays Jerzy Janowicz for a place in the Wimbledon men's singles final today. The match is second on centre court after the first semi-final between the world number one Novak Djokovic and Juan Martín del Potro. The weather dry with warm sunny spells and a top temperature of 25 degrees Celsius, that's 77 Fahrenheit. Get the latest news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/... Three Counties.
I'm Andy Murray and I'm playing in the second round at the tennis with my mum, Judy, watching me and my fit girlfriend who's better looking than me.
Oh, you went a bit in Djokovic at the end there.
Listen, I wish the boy the best of luck with the tennis today, but by 6 o'clock this evening, he will be Scottish, not British. And that's a fact.
OK.
Yeah! Fun times, fun times. Morning. Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. I wish him luck, but he's going to be Scottish again, isn't he? We've sent Kelly Betts out to find out what people on the street think, whether he Have you seen the size of the fella that Murray's going to be playing? He's 6'8", he's massive. He can rip his own shirt off. Not one with buttons, I could do that. One that hasn't a T-shirt. Flippin' heck. Lots coming up between now and JVS at 9 o'clock, including our local MPs will be in Parliament today talking about the EU referendum bill. There are persuasive arguments on both sides as to whether we should be in or out. But what do you think? Can Beds, Hearts and Bucks survive without Europe? Put the passion and the emotion to one side. Look at the facts. Can we survive? 08459 455 555. Bullying at school, does it live with you forever? A new charity is launched today as figures reveal a third of children where we are have thought about or attempted suicide before they reach the age of 16. And Tory MP Peter Bone wants to rename the last bank holiday of the year and call it Margaret Thatcher Day. I cannot believe that everybody on Facebook is against it. Not one person realises it makes perfect sense. Give us a call. 08459 455 555. If you wouldn't call it Margaret Thatcher Day, who would you give it to? We've had Churchill suggested several times. Any other suggestions would be gratefully appreciated. Facebook.com/BBC3CR. Send me a text, 81333. Start your text 3CR. Or give me a call. 08459 455 555.
Across Beds, Hearts and Bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
MPs are discussing the UK's relationship with the European Union later on, and you've probably got a view too. I'd like to hear it. 08459 455 555. Some politicians say we should pull out of the EU. Others say that would leave areas like Beds, Herts and Bucks without investment and put jobs on the line. But what do people think locally about the EU? Here are some voices from the street.
We're humans, we're flexible. The instinct to survive is good, therefore we will overcome whatever might happen. I didn't think the European thing was a good thing to start with anyway. I didn't actually vote for it. Then again, my vote doesn't make a difference if everybody else thinks differently.
We most probably could survive locally without the European Union, but in principle I think it does provide jobs in the long run because of here we're a bigger market. The bureaucracy drives me mad. I suppose it does most people mad, but we've still got sort of the economics to think about.
Well, Catherine Bearder is a Euro MEP for the Lib Dems in the South East, which covers Buckinghamshire. She joins me now. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning.
Can Beds, Herts and Bucks survive outside of the European Union?
No. In exactly the same way as it couldn't survive outside the UK. We're in a global market and we all have to work together to survive together.
The argument, we spoke to a gentleman from UKIP earlier on, and the argument that they put forward, and other people do as well, is that if we were outside of the European Union, it would allow us to negotiate with Europe, with America, with India and China, but on our own terms.
But we do. That's what I do in my daily work. I am representing the people of Buckinghamshire when I am on the Trade Committee, when we're negotiating the EU-American Free Trade Agreement. I am putting the UK view to that committee. That's why you elected me to do that job. Outside of that, we then stand aside, let the rest of Europe, which is 500 million people, it's a huge market that America wants to trade with, set the rules, and then we come along with 60 million and say, oh, excuse us, could we have something different? What do you think the Americans would say?
How on a day-to-day basis are Joe and Jane Bloggs living in, I don't know, Milton Keynes better off by being in Europe?
Because we're stronger together. Working with our European partners, we are the largest market in the world. We have a huge negotiating power. We are the third largest country in Europe in terms of population. So you have the third largest elected representatives there. So we have a big voice. And the rest of Europe actually wants us there. They're getting somewhat fed up with our constant, well, we might throw our toys out of the pram and go somewhere else. But actually they want us there, and they want us to...
They need us, don't they?
They need us, and we need them. I mean, Europe is stronger because of it's the sum of all its parts. We are culturally different. We bring a difference to the table and a strength to the table.
A lot of people might say that MEPs, it's just, what's the point of them being in Brussels? It's just a jolly. You get to go off and stay in Brussels, which is a very, very nice place. Some lovely bars and restaurants there.
I never get to see them.
Oh, come on, Catherine. You've had a little night out. But a lot of people say it's just a waste of money. It's just a waste of money having all you over there.
You could say that about any level of democracy. Your councillors are a waste of money. Your MPs are a waste of money. What you do in a democracy is elect people to represent your views and to stand up for you. And that's what I'm doing all the time. That's what the MEPs are doing. That's what your local councillor does. Democracy costs. But it's a better system than the alternative, I can say that.
£53 million a day is the figure that's bandied around. Exactly. I can't get a clear answer on this, and we did have a gentleman on from UKIP who couldn't actually defend that figure. He said he hadn't read the document.
Well, I can't remember what the figure is per day, but it's about £6 billion a year.
Right.
Okay. Now think of that in terms of the NHS or the army or the rest of it. It's actually very good value for money.
What do we get? What do we get for that money?
Oh, we get all the support for the farmers. We get support. We get to negotiating on the world stage. We get we pay for the actual administration of the thing, which is actually small. There are fewer people working for the Parliament than there are for Birmingham City Council. So it's actually reasonably efficient. Of course, it's got to get better. That's what I'm doing. That's what all the other MEPs are doing. We've got to have more efficiency. We've got to use our pennies well and invest that. We invest The UK is the biggest recipient of research and development funding in Europe. So, our universities are supported by the European Union. The benefits are enormous. It's like saying, would Buckingham be better out of England if it wanted to go on its own? It's the same sort of analogy.
Finally, we're hearing talk about... Well, David Cameron has promised a referendum with a few caveats. Is it all smoke and mirrors, Catherine? Are we ever going to get a referendum?
Well, I don't know how you go into negotiations with a sort of large meat cleaver behind your back and say, look, if we don't get our way, we're going to storm off. That's not really the way that I understand negotiations. You go in, you have your agenda, and you negotiate. But going in and saying, oh, if we don't get what we want, we're going, is no way to open the gambit. I think we need to improve the way Europe works, and that's why I'm busy actively doing that job, because I believe in it, and I believe that it's worth fighting for.
Final question, Catherine, going off on a slight tangent. Peter Bone MP has suggested that the last bank holiday of the year should be called Margaret Thatcher Day. What do you think?
No, I've got a better name for it. Call it My Day.
Oh, what, Catherine Bearder Day?
No, your day. Your day.
Iain Lee Day.
Those in your calendar. This is my day.
Oh.
This is your day off to do whatever you want to do.
That's not a bad idea, you see. She is earning her salary. Catherine, thank you very much indeed. That's Catherine Bearder, Euro MEP for the Lib Dems in the South East. 08459 455 555. Pat's in Houghton Regis. Morning, Pat.
Good morning, Ian.
Do you think that Beds, Hearts and Bucks could survive outside of the EU?
Oh, I think we'd really struggle. No, I'm only joking.
Good joke. Don't open with it. So you think we'd be successful outside?
Oh, obviously, yeah. It's so obvious that we can't even get a vote before the next election. We don't need a law to be passed. I mean, look at proportional representation. That was bunged on the electorate at the last moment, and that didn't take a law, did it?
No, but is it obvious? Is it really obvious that we could survive outside of the EU?
Well, all the families have got to do is look at what they're earning at the moment, look at the prices of food at the moment, look at what's happening around. I know everyone throws around the fact that it's a world recession, etc., but we've never been so worse off. And when we were out of Europe, we had the Commonwealth, yes. And that was a good time to be around.
Well, no, listen, it was great days, great guys, great memories. But it is a world recession. Everybody's paying more for food and housing and clothes and earning less. It's happening everywhere.
Well, it is happening everywhere. Everyone's paying a lot more for everything. But have you noticed the people that are charging these prices are getting richer as well? A lot of people exploit the recession.
Of course they do.
Especially, yeah, and they're doing it in the shops, the people that run these businesses.
Well, that's capitalism, though, isn't it? That's the system we've employed.
Exactly. So the root cause of all this increase in food and clothes, etc., is not the recession, it's the people really taking the mickey out of it.
Hey, Pat, here we go. Listen, I know you're going to be on my side on this. The last bank holiday in August, Margaret Thatcher Day. You in?
I think we should call it I Can't Wait Day.
What?
A day off. But who cares what name you put to it? I don't care. I just want the day off.
OK, well, this is the closest I've got to a yes so far. So you don't care. So in theory, if you don't care, then Margaret Thatcher Day will be acceptable to you.
You can call it whatever day you like. If I get a day off, I'm happy.
Beautiful. I'm going to count that as a yes. That's a yes for Margaret Thatcher Day. We found one. I knew we'd get there eventually. Smoke and mirrors. Smoke and mirrors. 08459 455 555. Why are you all so anti Margaret Thatcher Day? I genuinely can't understand. I can understand why some of you are against it, but even those of you who didn't like Margaret Thatcher, you'd enjoy the day, wouldn't you? Because it's nice sometimes to be angry, isn't it? We enjoy being angry. And if it was Margaret Thatcher Day and you didn't like her, well, you could enjoy being angry about it. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. I was going to read some comments on Facebook. My computer seems to have decided that it won't let me do that. So in that case, we'll speak to Adam Glynn instead.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Busy and still quite slow on the M25 anti-clockwise. You've got a lot of traffic around because of the accident earlier between Waltham Abbey at junction 26 and Enfield at junction 25, despite the fact that all lanes are open. So it's slow approaching the roadworks. You'll find it quite slow through the roadworks as well toward the A1M, and then a bit busy from Chorleywood down to the M40, junction 18 to 16. Clockwise slow in the roadworks section, so Potters Bar to Enfield particularly. If you're driving into London, Boreham Wood, the A1 southbound from Stirling Corner to Apex Corner junction looking slow. The A414 at the Park Street roundabout, you've got a fair bit of traffic there, both directions coming toward the roundabout, and some delays in Dunstable this morning on the A5. Going north, it's looking slow between the Ashton Middle School junction and the A505, and then the A505 looking slow from Station Road toward the A5 at the High Street traffic lights. A little bit of disruption on the trains. Virgin are affected off toward Manchester and the Midlands. They've got overhead wire problems at Heald Green, and that means some delays of up to 40 minutes, and cancellations are to be expected on some services running to and from Euston. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much indeed. It's 8:16. It's Friday the 5th of July. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. Plans for a referendum on Britain's membership of the European Union will be debated by MPs later this morning. 47 families in Stevenage will have to find alternative respite care for their disabled children as their current facility, Wilbury House, has been earmarked for closure. In sport, tiny wee man Andy Murray says he won't be intimidated by his Wimbledon semi-final opponent, the 7'9" giant Jerzy Janowicz, 6'8". The weather today in Beds, Herts and Bucks, it'll be a dry day with plenty of warm sunshine with a maximum temperature of 25 degrees. Coming up, we'll be talking a little bit more about bullying and the shocking statistic that a third of children across the east of England have thought about or attempted suicide before they reach the age of 16.
BBC Three Counties Radio. BBC Three Counties Radio, your local stories.
I have a friend who runs a hairdresser's and one of her members of staff is stealing the takings. So what would the advice from the police be?
We'll find out, Sally.
Your local life.
Yesterday we were talking about the problem of shoplifting. So what can you do if you have staff who, to put it eloquently, are a bit light-fingered?
Your local radio station.
The one thing which seems to actually solve the problem for them, they all said, was I put in CCTV cameras.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Jonathan Vernon Smith is here. Now, you just said, earlier on in the show, for those who've just tuned in, thanks a lot. But at 10 to 7 on a Friday, we have a regular feature. It's where we play one of the BBC introducing tracks. It's local, unsigned bands. Sometimes it's obvious why they're unsigned. But some of them are really good. And we have Nanny Eileen to come on and review, who's my adoptive nanny. This morning, Barry from Watford muscled in. He's doing a show next week at the Watford Palace Theatre. You just told me you're going to this show, Jonathan.
I am going to.
Why?
Yes. Because I'm a big fan of Barry.
Oh, for goodness sake.
In fact, Barry this morning, it's my favourite part of your show.
What?
Loved it.
Don't encourage him.
It's my favourite, I would say it was my favourite 10 minutes that you've done this morning.
How rude. I have been working my bits off this morning. This is a Sony Bronze, if ever I heard one.
Well, there's no doubt about that.
Yes, and that was the best bit.
Well, I enjoyed it. I loved it. I wondered whether, because Nanny Eileen, she's widowed, isn't she?
Yes.
She's mentioned this before.
Yeah.
Has Barry got a wife?
He's married to Margaret, but I think he doesn't mind, playing around a bit.
Because I thought perhaps, and if you can try and persuade Barry to come on next week, perhaps you should see if you could play Cilla Black with the two of them. Send them off on a date.
Surprise, surprise! Duck it!
Isn't it funny to
Terrifying.
think... I know she was. Isn't it funny to think that we both grew up in a world where Cilla Black was considered Saturday night entertainment. She had so many shows.
Date.
I like Blind Date, and then it just got a bit mucky.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes. It went on a bit too long.
It outlived its welcome.
They got rid of Our Graham at the end. That was when, for me, I was very unhappy.
She quit live on air, didn't she? There was a live episode of Blind Date, and she quit on that live episode.
Did she?
I'm sure she did.
I don't remember this.
That was it when TV still had the power to actually be a little bit exciting.
Oh.
There was a furore about it.
Really?
Yeah, furore.
Furore.
Furore. What's coming up on your show this morning?
Well, coming up on the big phone in this morning, it's a serious one, it's a tough one. I'm asking from 9, do you think it's right we spend money to protect John Venables? The parole board has said that one of James Bulger's killers, John Venables, should be released from prison. Venables was previously paroled, but then he was sent back to jail for accessing child pornography. Well, we, the taxpayers, paid for him to have a new identity back then, and we will no doubt have to pay for him to have another new identity should he be released again. The question is, and there's been quite an argument going on Twitter, actually, over this very issue, do you think it's right that we spend money to protect John Venables? I mean, ultimately, he is a man that committed awful crimes, crimes that... Actually, I was just reading some of the details. I'd forgotten some of the details.
Oh, it's horrific, and a lot of the details weren't... I mean, they were around, but you had to hunt for them because they were so disturbing.
Heartbreaking. Yeah. Absolutely heartbreaking, the whole thing. I mean, they were 10 years old at the time. Yep. How 2 10-year-old boys could do what they did to him. It's just... You just can't get your head around it at all. To start with, OK, his identity was protected when he was released from prison because, you know, he was still young, wasn't he? He was still a young man. But now, the last time he's been released, he's now a 30-year-old man. Well, does he deserve, should we, the taxpayers, pay for him to have anonymity yet again? From 9 this morning, I want your views. Perhaps you think it's absolutely necessary. Sadly, it's a necessary expense because unless we do give him a new identity... When he comes out of prison, he will not last very long at all. Your views on the big phone in. Do you think it's right we spend money to protect John Venables? 08459 455 555. It's the big phone in. This morning from 9.
Thank you very much.
Call 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Well, it's Jonathan will be talking about that at 9 o'clock, that we are joined now by Dee Edwards, who co-founded Mothers Against Murder and Aggression because of what happened to Jamie Bulger. Good morning, Dee.
Good morning.
Dee, what do you think about what Jonathan was just talking about there?
Well, I don't know why John Venables and Robert Thompson were released so early in the first place. They committed an absolutely horrendous crime. Like you said, yes, they were children, but lots of children are physically, mentally, sexually assaulted every single day in this country. They do not go out and take a child's life. I don't think we should be still protecting him. You know, we're not equipped in this country for... We had, you know, when people were the kick-off in Plymouth, for instance, when paediatricians were being beaten up by people because people take the law into their own hands. But I can't see how we can justify... This man is now 30 years old, and he is a man. He went to prison. He didn't serve his time the first time. He's been caught being involved in child abuse, and we're telling people it's okay. Firstly, you can murder a child and inflict 42 separate injuries on his little body. Then you can go out and abuse children, download pornography, and whatever else.
He was, just to clarify, he was sent back to prison again for having child pornographic images, wasn't he? Not, and I know that does count as abuse, but not physically abusing children himself.
Well, it just shows what kind of a mentality the person is, though, doesn't it? And, you know, when you get a prison sentence and you come out on licence, if you do anything wrong, you go back. And how long has he been back in now? 2 or 3 years, maybe?
I think it's 3 years.
3 years. Is that really enough? We are still sending out a message that it's okay to be involved in child pornography. And even when you say he's not physically abusing somebody is, because...
No, you're right. I was just clearing up what you said, because you did say that it implied... And you're right, I'm not in any way justifying what he's done. I'm just being specific.
Because when you go online and download child pornography, you are a part of that chain that is abusing children.
Yes.
Because if they're available, people will look at them. Someone is taking the photographs of those children. Someone is abusing those children, and he is involved in it. And until the internet people clean up and say, we will not even allow child pornography online, this is always going to happen. We should not be protecting him anymore. And, you know, my feeling is I don't condone murder in any way, and probably he won't be safe. But how many more identities is he going to have What about the families? Denise, Ralph and their extended families, they don't have anonymity. You know, we know those families. We've worked with them for years. We've seen the heartache, the stuff that has happened to their families because of James's death. They are dragged into it all the time. And many years ago, probably 18 years ago, I was talking to Ralph's mum, and she said to me, every single time those people are in the news again, our James, it feels like our James is dragged back out of his grave. And when is he going to be allowed to rest in peace? Because James Bulger has become the Moors murders of this century.
Devil's advocate for a second, Dee. Not necessarily what I think, but I'm just putting this forward. John Venables was 10 when he committed the crime. He was a child. From what I've read, his upbringing was pretty awful. He was definitely damaged goods, not in any way justifying what he did. Don't we, or it could be argued that we as a humane society, which we generally are, do we not owe him the chance to try and rebuild his life?
He had the chance to rebuild his life. We never hear from Robert Thompson or what he's doing. I don't know where he is or what he's up to. And maybe he is getting on with his life. I don't know. My fear is that all these new identities people are given, one day he could move in next door to my daughter and marry her, and I wouldn't know who he was, who my daughter was married to, and I'm sure lots of parents share that fear. We don't know where he is. Who's he living amongst? Who is he going to marry? Who is he going to have children with? What's he going to do to them? No, I just think he had enough chances. He didn't serve, I think they served 8 years, and they came out, and yes, the world was up in arms about it. Of course we all were. He had his chance to make a new life. He was given a new identity. He was given over £300,000, I believe, compensation because they were young children and they didn't understand the court. So I believe this is allegedly.
If we let him out as John Venables, and within,
but he isn't John Venables anymore.
No, but if we did let him out as John Venables or whoever, John Smith or whoever he may be, but we didn't have to protect his anonymity, his picture would be on the front page of the Sun and the Mirror and the Star, and he would be killed by the end of the day, wouldn't he?
Yes, and I expect the person who killed him would go to prison for the rest of their lives.
But is that what you would like?
No, it's not what I would like. I would have liked him to have kept his head down and. You know, I wasn't happy that he was out in the first place for killing James, but if he was given a new name and a new life, a new passport and birth certificate and everything else that went with that, and the enormous amount of money that has been spent on protecting him, then he should have taken that chance and gone. And clearly, he is not fit to be out on the streets because he can't. You know, I spoke a long time ago as well to people who worked with him, and out of the two, and I'm not going to name names because the lady would get into serious trouble for telling us this, but she did say, out of the two, if John Venables is released, he will offend again.
Okay, Dee, listen, I appreciate you coming on, and I hope you appreciate I'm playing devil's advocate and just putting another side of an argument.
I absolutely do.
Dee, thank you very much indeed. Dee Edwards co-founded Mothers Against Murder and Aggression because of what happened to Jamie Bulger. Well, JVS this morning... Well, it's going to be a passionate one this morning, isn't it, is talking about this. Do you think it's right we spend money to protect John Venables? You can start calling him now if you want, 08459 455 555. As we always do, we steal the cream of his callers. Let's be honest. If you call him before 9, we'll take the best ones. You can also email him as well, jvsshow@bbc.co.uk, and no doubt that will, if it's not up there already, that will also be going on the Facebook page very soon. The Facebook page is used for all the shows, not just mine. JVS and Nick and Roberto often pop up there. So facebook.com/BBC3CR.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Disruption for Virgin Train services running between Manchester Piccadilly and London's Euston. This is because of overhead wire problems at Heald Green. They've had to switch the electrical supply off in that area in the aftermath of a train fire, and it's causing congestion to services into and out of Manchester Piccadilly Station. Well, that means some late runners on the departure boards coming through Milton Keynes to and from Manchester. It also means you could have some cancellations. The A5 in Dunstable looking a bit slow as you come from Regent Street toward the A505, and then on the 505 A5, you've got a fair bit of traffic coming toward the A5 at the High Street traffic lights. Park Street and the A414 at the Park Street roundabout looking slow. M25 easing after the accident earlier between Waltham Abbey and Enfield. You'll still find it slow, though, anti-clockwise round from Chorleywood to the M40, and clockwise quite slow through the roadworks, Potters Bar to Enfield. Plus, heavy traffic on the A1 in Boreham Wood, Stirling Corner toward Apex Corner. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, thanks very much. More from you in 15 minutes. 8:30 exactly. News and Sport with Catherine Boyle.
Across beds, hearts and bugs.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. The headlines. Plans for a referendum on Britain's membership of the European Union will be debated by MPs later this morning. A man charged with the murder of an elderly woman and the attempted murder of a boy in West Yorkshire is due in court later. And 47 families in Stevenage will have to find alternative respite care for their disabled children as their current facility, Wilbury House, has been earmarked for closure.
Three Counties Sports.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Andy Murray takes on Jerzy Janowicz for a place in the Wimbledon's men's singles final today. Murray starts as the favourite, but the British number one says he can't afford to take the 24th seed lightly.
I know him a little bit. I've seen him play quite a bit this year as well. He's had some good tournaments. In the build-up here, he played well in Rome especially. And then, the guys will have a look at some of the videos of his matches here, see if there's some extra things we can pick up from and take it from there.
Sabine Lisicki will play Marion Bartoli in the ladies' singles final at Wimbledon tomorrow. Bartoli won in straight sets against Kirsten Flipkens, while Lisicki beat Agnieszka Radwanska to become the first German woman to reach the final of Wimbledon since Steffi Graf in 1999. Formula One drivers could go on strike this weekend and refuse to take part in the German Grand Prix. That's the threat from the Grand Prix Drivers Association if there's a repeat of the tyre failures experienced during the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. Speaking before the Drivers Association statement was made, the Milton Keynes-based Red Bull driver Mark Webber says tyre manufacturers must adhere to the highest standards.
The teams have very strict rules on construction, crash tests, all these things, which we have to meet every year. And they're tough tests, so we need to make sure that the suppliers are doing the same.
In football, a statement on the Grays Athletic website suggests the Essex club's manager Hakan Henrietten is leaving to become Luton Town's assistant manager. This follows the Hatters' announcement yesterday that former assistant manager Alan Nielsen and goalkeeping coach Dimitri Karin are both moving on. And local non-league clubs will today find out their opponents in the early draws of the FA Cup and the FA Trophy. And that's your latest news and sport. I'll be back with more at 9 o'clock.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is Iain Lee.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Yes. Coming up before the end of the show, Hanson. Bop. Honestly, I think they are brilliant, and their new single, Get the Girl Back, is wonderful. We've played it a couple of times this week. It's wonderful. It's an interview we recorded yesterday. They'll be on before 9 o'clock. You can still give us a call, though, on Margaret Thatcher Day. It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? 08459 455 555. And Andy Murray, the tennis superstar, he's playing today. He doesn't stand a chance against this fella. Have you seen this? There's Jerzy guy, Jerzy Janowicz. He's 22 years old, so he's 4 or 5 years younger. 6'8", weighs 14 stone. His feet, size 16 trainers, size 16. That's big. This is not even humanly possible. He serves at up to 149 miles per hour. Flippin' heck! He doesn't stand a chance, does he? We'll speak to Kelly Betts in a little bit. She's been out on the street finding out if people think he actually does stand a chance against this Jerzy giant. I don't think he will. Before that, though, Margaret Thatcher Day, an MP, Mr Bone MP, has said the last bank holiday of the year should be called Margaret Thatcher Day. I think it's a cracking idea. I found one person who sort of went along with it, but didn't particularly agree with it. Mick's in High Wycombe. Good morning, Mick.
Good morning, area.
Margaret Thatcher Day. Come on, you know it makes sense.
It's not, mate. Not to me, who lived through her reign. What we could call it is Culture Day, where we celebrate the cultures of the people that have moved to the United Kingdom over the generations. And August is not the final bank holiday of the year. It's actually Boxing Day, which happens on the 26th. That's actually a bank holiday.
Is Boxing Day a bank holiday?
Yeah.
Isn't Boxing Day one of the most boring days ever?
Not really, no.
Oh, well, what do you do on your Boxing Days then, Mick?
Oh, I'm still in the festive mood and all that, you know.
Oh, it's worn off for me by then.
Yeah, I'm still in contact with my family and things like that.
And when does your contact with your family end then?
Well, it doesn't really, and it's ongoing.
There you go. So it's ongoing. Mick is giving a resounding no to Margaret Thatcher Day. I don't get it. Surely it makes perfect sense. The haters gonna hate. Haters gonna hate, aren't they? Wimbledon. You know I'm not a fan, and regular listeners to the show will know I don't really understand it, but it's an important day. Andy Murray's it's the quarter-finals today, I believe. And Andy Murray, the British tennis superstar, could, by 6 o'clock, become the Scottish tennis player. I don't think he's going to do it. I do not think he's going to beat this Jersey guy. But is that just me being grumpy and me being negative? Well, I sent my reporter, and I'm doing speech marks fingers as I say that, Kelly Betts, out and about to find out what you on the streets of Beds, Herts and Bucks thought. Kelly?
Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Anytime.
Yeah, OK. Just one little tip, Kelly. If you want to be a successful radio star like me...
Yeah.
I feel miserable inside. My soul is being ripped out from me. You couldn't tell from my jolly voice.
No.
So just try and up the jolliness a bit.
Oh, OK, fine.
Perfect.
How's this?
Yeah, that's much better. Turn it down a little bit.
This?
That's it. Well done.
OK.
Kelly, you've been speaking to people on the streets today. What have they said?
I have. Even people who don't like Wimbledon still think Andy Murray can do it. I said, do you watch Wimbledon? No. Do you follow tennis? No. Andy Murray, will he win? Yes. Oh, yes, he will. Lots of people just saying yes, basically.
Well, should we listen to a montage of people saying yes?
Hey!
Can we get rid of her? She's awful.
So, Andy Murray, Wimbledon, can he do it?
Oh, definitely.
Why do you feel so strongly about it?
Because I think everything is in his favour. All the ones that he would have been up against are gone.
I hope so. I think he can, yeah.
Andy Murray, what do you reckon? Can he do it?
Hopefully, definitely, yes.
Andy Murray, Wimbledon, yes or no?
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, why not? I mean, he's given quite a few shots.
Andy Murray in Wimbledon, do you reckon he could beat what's-his-name tonight?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Why do you think he can?
Because he's been doing so well at the minute, so I thought he's got it in him to win it, like.
Yeah, he's definitely got the power to do it, yeah.
Yeah, I think he can do it.
Andy Murray, do you reckon he can do it?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah?
Big time.
Well, I don't think so.
No?
He's playing with a Polish guy, yeah?
Yeah, we're Polish.
So, and we are Polish, so we think our guy is gonna be better.
Yeah, I bet he can.
Yeah, why not?
Andy Murray, do you reckon he can do it?
Definitely.
There we go. Well, people are very keen, Kelly Betts.
They are. I got really bored of saying Andy Murray, though.
Yeah. Imagine how bored he gets of thinking Andy Murray.
Do you want to do your Andy Murray impression?
I'm Andy Murray, I'm playing in 2 rounds of tennis. Oh, no, I can't. Now I sound like an Indian, which you cannot do with an Indian voice on the radio. Kelly Betts, excellent work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
When I say excellent, I don't mean it.
Call 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
OK, well, John Cavill is a coach and a director at Tennis Works at Stony Stratford Tennis Club. Morning, John.
Morning, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Andy Murray does not stand a chance against this bloke. Have you seen him? He's huge.
I know, he's a bit of a monster, isn't he?
He's 6'8".
Yep.
I've lost him. Where's he gone? He's 6'8". He's got size 16 feet. He can serve the ball at 149 miles per hour.
I know, it's a bit of a serve on that, and to be honest, on the grass courts as well, the advantage of that with the speed of the ball coming through, and it's not going to be an easy job, and obviously that's why he's made it to the semi-finals.
Do you reckon Murray can beat him?
I think so. It's going to be a tough ask. I mean, anyone with a serve like that is obviously got a massive advantage. Really, it will come down to how persistent, how much Murray can hang in there. He's got a great return of serve. Obviously, wouldn't be where he is if he didn't. And it's if he can just hang in there and mentally get, make him wobble and take advantage of it. But looking at stats and things, the guy's only been broken like 4 times in the tournament, and he's bombing down some of the fastest. He's got the most aces so far in the tournament, and. So, yeah, it's not going to be an easy task.
And Murray's game the other day where he lost the first 2 sets,
yep.
That's not particularly promising, is it?
Well, sometimes it's quite good to have a tough one coming into this second week, just really to get them fired up, ready for the battles that will come later on. So, Verdasco's obviously a quality player and was playing well. Murray was off his game, but at the end of the day, it's about coming through and getting through each round, and somehow Murray found a way and got through. So there's no reason why he can't do it again today. But again, it's just that serve's going to be huge.
Size? How big are your feet, John?
Mine are 10.
Size 10. I'm a size 10. Size 16 feet. This may sound silly, but I genuinely that must give you an advantage because you're more stable, haven't you? Aren't you? You'd be harder to lose your balance.
Well, I don't know, because he's so tall. Obviously, his centre of gravity is a lot higher, so it works the other way. But the height is definitely. I think I've also heard that they've been in training. Some of his training partners have been serving off boxes to try and get that trajectory down into the court. So hopefully he's prepared for it.
He's a bad boy, isn't he? This Jerzy. He's got previous.
Yeah, I mean the guy is full of fire, and it's quite exciting in some ways. He wants it so bad, but he's full of self-determination and all the good qualities of a good tennis player, and still relatively young in terms of top tennis player. It's exciting to have people like this come onto the scene.
Can I ask you a personal question, John?
Yeah, go for it.
When my producer Tara, called you up to speak to John Cavill, am I right there are 5 John Cavills in your family?
No, there's actually 6 now, my son as well.
Oh, for goodness sake. So was it your dad, your granddad, your great-granddad and great-great-granddad?
Yeah, that's right.
And how old's your boy?
He'll be 7 tomorrow.
Oh, well, fantastic.
Yeah, and he's got a Wimbledon party down at the tennis club, so it all fits in.
There we go. Well, that's wonderful. Does it not get confusing, though, having that many John Cavills?
Yeah, it's sometimes. Well, to throw another one in, my stepdad's also called John.
Oh, for goodness sakes. Right, listen, can we send a book of names to John Cavill, just in case he has any more? If you have another son,
yeah,
what are you going to call it?
It won't be John. Okay. It's only the first one.
John, thank you. All right, so there's a rule, I see. John Cavill, thank you very much. You're a good sport. Alan in Lindsley says, if Murray wins, the August bank holiday should be named after him, Murray Day. Oh, for goodness sakes, really? Shall we have a quick look at the front pages? We've not done the front pages. Look, it's been such a packed show. Hanson is coming up soon. Oh-ho! The Times. Labour poll chief quits over claims of union fix. Ed Miliband was forced to pick a fight with boring. The Labour have been accused of kind of fixing things and being controlled by the unions a bit. I don't. A bit boring. The Daily Telegraph. Now this is an interesting turn of events. Police, every chance Madeleine is alive. Scotland Yard yesterday, this is the Telegraph, began a full investigation into the case of Madeleine McCann, the girl who disappeared 6 years ago. Why has it taken 6 years for them to get involved? That's the question. Detectives say there is every chance she's alive and have 38 possible suspects. It's the mystery that just keeps on giving. Just when you thought that story was all done and dusted, 38 suspects. The Guardian. Egypt prepares for backlash as Morsi allies reject new regime. Ousted party mobilises for day of protest. It's going to kick off. I don't think you have to be a great political giant to realise it's going to kick off. Let's do the Independent and we'll do the others a little bit later if there's time. Unite! Labour in crisis as union chief turns on Miliband. And victim in Bettison smear claims was top anti-racist campaigner. And there's a picture of Egypt as well. Right! Let's go and get the travel news. Here's Adam Glynn. Oh no, that's the weather. For goodness sakes, how on earth did that happen? Let's just do it without the music. Adam? What on earth's going on? Adam Glynn?
Yes?
Were you listening to music then?
No, something accidentally popped up on my computer.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't looking at that stuff. Honest, Mum, it's just popped up by accident. No, then why is it in your favourites? Unbelievable. Well, Adam, I've got no music for you, so we'll have to do this Acapulco.
I could give you some music myself.
Is it that stuff that just popped up?
Yeah.
It was a little bit weird. It was a bit Euro-poppy, wasn't it?
It was a little bit.
Hang on a second. Let's see if I can work some magic here with this. Right, the music's going to be all over the place. Right, hang on a second. Oh no, I can't do it. I've lost all my music now. Adam, away you go.
All right, M25 anti-clockwise, looking slow between Chorleywood and the M40. We have had reports of an accident, apparently on the hard shoulder past junction 17, so that could be what's causing traffic to slow down through there. You've got some delays on the clockwise side, Potters Bar to Enfield going into and through the roadworks there. The A1 is looking quite busy in toward London through Boreham Wood from Stirling Corner to Apex Corner. Short delays on the A405 in Bricket Wood, that's coming down toward the M25 junction 21A roundabout.
Sorry, Adam, keep going.
It's all right.
Ignore the interruptions.
A414 at the Park Street roundabout is a little bit slow. The A5 at Dunstable looking a bit busy from Ashton Middle School toward the West Street traffic lights. And then you've also got a little bit of traffic as well on Church Street in Dunstable. But really, things are actually looking quite good this morning. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Adam, I think we got away with it. No one noticed that was a complete cock-up. Thank you very much. 8:45, it's Friday the 5th of July. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. Plans for a referendum on Britain's membership of the European Union will be debated by MPs later this morning. 47 families in Stevenage have been told their disabled children's respite facility, Wilbury Court, is to close. Coming up, we're going to be hearing from Hanson, but first, here's the weather.
Beds, Herts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Very good morning to you. Lots of sunshine on the way for today. Truly glorious day across Beds, Herts and Bucks. We'll see temperatures up to 25 or 26 degrees Celsius in some of our towns. We may even catch a 27 somewhere. Quite well placed to do that. Somewhere across the three counties as we head through the rest of the afternoon. There will be some fair weather cloud around at times, but with the winds very light, then it will still feel very pleasant. Lots of sunshine around as we head into this evening too. Overnight tonight, lows between 12 and 14 degrees. A few mist patches, I dare say, into tomorrow morning. They'll quickly disperse and we'll see even higher temperatures tomorrow. The sunshine lasting for the rest of the weekend. Temperatures peaking out on Sunday. We might even see 30 degrees. This is going to be a sustained warm and sunny period with the weather lasting well into next week. That's the forecast.
Thank you very much. That wasn't a mess at all, was it? Or was it? Yes, in many ways, it was. Listen, I know I sound geeky when I say this. One of my favourite bands of all time, Hanson. I love them. I genuinely think they are pop. I just think the pop songs they write are brilliant. Their new single, Get the Girl Back, is awesome. You're going to hear that in a second. I spoke to Hanson yesterday, and we pre-recorded a little interview. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Hanson. Hello, Hanson.
Hello. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. So we got Isaac, we've got Taylor, and we've got Zach. Are you all there?
Yes, we are all
here.
We are all here.
Isaac is here. Zach is...
I'm here.
Taylor's there. Taylor's laughing now.
Yes.
Now listen, before we get started in having a chat, can you do a song for me? Do I get a private concert?
Sure, of course.
We're going to do a little bit of music. We did hear that you requested the song Already Home.
Yeah, you don't know how to play it. Okay. Is that true?
It's not that we don't know how to play it. It's just it hasn't been rehearsed. It hasn't been rehearsed to play in this sparse way.
It doesn't sound quite as cool when it's acoustic.
It's hard to play without cymbals.
Okay, listen to you. Okay, I'm disappointed because it is my favourite song on the album. But
well, we get it. I mean, we can,
No, listen. You do whatever you feel confident doing.
Okay, we're gonna play a song called "Cut Right Through Me."
One, two, 1, 2, 3.
Your hug, I've never felt like that. Give me a heart attack. I can
Fantastic. We'll have some of that. Handsome, excellent stuff. Listen, I've got the album here in front of me, Anthem. I've been listening to it a lot in my car. And it's very, it's very good, by the way, is what I should say.
Thank you very much.
The thing is, it is excellent. As you, I don't know if you remember, but I've met you before, and I am genuinely a huge fan. But the second, are you tired of the preconceptions that people have of Hanson? When you mention Hanson, they go, "Oh yeah, Mbop." Does that not irritate you a little bit?
Well, I think it's more that you always want people to know what you're doing right now. I mean, you got to be a little narcissistic to get into this business, to put yourself out on stage and be like, hey, here's a great song, right? Yeah, exactly. That I just wrote. So, I mean, you have this sense of, I really want people to know what I'm doing. I'm really proud of what I'm doing. And so it can be frustrating. But, I mean, the nice thing about that is it's still our songs, you know what I mean? We still wrote those songs, like Mbop or Where's the Love or If Only.
We've been kind of doing a blind Pepsi challenge with your single, and I've been playing this, the Get the Girl Back, which is the single, and saying this is a brilliant song. I'm not going to tell you who it's by. Have a listen. And everyone goes, hey, that's a great record. Who's this hip young band? Hanson. And no one believes it. No one can believe it, because the thing is this your sixth album?
It's our sixth album.
Album number 6, which is, you know, we feel pretty happy about that. It's a lot to get to album number 6.
Yeah.
Do you miss the hysteria of the mid-90s? That, you know, when you were a pure pop band and it was screaming 12-year-old girls. Do you miss that?
Well, I mean,
my hearing doesn't miss that.
I was going to say, the biggest downside of screaming 12-year-old girls is no one could hear the music.
How did you guys meet?
Well, we were at the hospital.
It was 1985.
Actually, we were at home because I was a home birth.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no, that's messy. You don't want that.
Wow.
At what point, obviously your brothers, I'm teasing you, but at what point did you go, hang on a second, we might have a really good band here?
Well, it's interesting because, you know, obviously we started singing together when I was like 6. And we were the band for about 5 years before we got signed, a while before people actually knew the band. But I joke that I didn't actually join the band until I was about 18, you know, because it was it's so natural, this process, being the band. It's just something that happens and something that you're enjoying and you don't think about it. And then one day you're like, oh, right, this is, okay, I'm in a band. Yeah. Let's do it.
I've sold 10 million records.
Because, you know, when you're rehearsing in your living room, it doesn't always so much feel like, oh, yeah, you know, I'm in a band quite in the same way. It's a little bit more like just a direct extension of you.
It becomes a lifestyle. I mean, there are a few people that actually know me in particular before we were, you know, in a band, because I was 6.
Exactly.
You know?
Your other siblings.
Listen, the new album is called Anthem, and boy, oh boy, if you want to hear what Hanson sounded like in 2013, play the first song. The first song, Fired Up, is a filthy rocker. I was surprised. It's I don't mean dirty in content, but it's got an edge to it.
Well,
it does. I mean, the thing is, it's just a lead guitar, drums, bass. It's basically the DNA of an AC/DC song.
Or
just a straight out of the box, simple,
with a Led Zeppelin time signature.
Yeah, exactly. Not to say that we're equivalent to those at all, but
hang on, Hanson are bigger than Led Zepp. I can see the headlines now. Look, you saw what the Beatles did with Jesus. You're bigger than Led Zepp. That's in some ways. That's what. Yeah. Listen, what the new singles, Get the Girl Back. Can you play that one on guitars yet?
Oh, absolutely.
Can we hear a bit?
Of course.
Away you go, chaps.
This is a little more of a Motown throwback.
This is a cracking song.
Here we go.
She's about to walk away, so if you're gonna make her wanna stay, tell her she's your morning sun. Tell her that she's always been the one. You've got to say it from the heart, 'cause she would know a fake right from the
Yes, fantastic. Chaps, listen, it's lovely to talk to you. I believe you're coming back over in the year to do some concerts, is that right?
That's right. The tour is going to be all over the UK.
It'll be in December, so check the website for dates, Hanson.net.
Hanson.net. The new album is called Anthem. The singles Get the Girl Back. It's an absolute corker. Chaps, as always, wish you the best of luck. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The A5 in Dunstable still looking a little bit slow as you come from Regent Street toward the A505, and then on the 505 a bit of traffic from Station Road toward the A5 at the High Street traffic lights. It's nothing major though. Speed sensors not showing any big problems today. The A6 looking maybe a little bit slow from Luton northbound up toward Barton Le Clay and the bypass, but that also is running reasonably well. You've got delays between the Park Street roundabout and the London Coney roundabout on the A414, so it's looking quite slow through there both ways. Down to the M25, the majority of the traffic has eased off now. You're pretty much back to normal as you make your way round toward the M40. We had those reports of an accident on the hard shoulder near to junction 17 earlier. Clearly that has all been moved out of the way and traffic through there's looking okay. M1 is looking fine into London. On the A1 you've got a bit of traffic still heavy in Boreham Wood from Stirling Corner toward Apex Corner, and on the trains it's good news as well. Virgin back to a normal service from Manchester to London after overhead wire problems earlier this morning. Adam Glynn, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Adam. At last, Tina's texted in an excellent idea. A Margaret Thatcher Day would upset the people who disliked her. I loved her. At last, someone agrees with me. Download the podcast. Back on Monday. JVS is up next.
On FM, AM, online and digital radio.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Ian. Good morning. Welcome to the JVS show. I'm Jonathan Vernon-Smith. Friday morning, and on today's Big Phone-In. Do you think it's right we spend money to protect John Venables? The Parole Board has said one of James Bulger's